So Brady
Really?
Singer, yes, he was down for 23 days.
Boy, time flies when you're frustrated with bad baseball, huh?
I had to get
He was down there for almost a month.
I had to get confirmation because I knew it was right on the cusp, because you can only miss like 14 days or so in the minors for you to not get a full year service time.
You want to tweet that out during the break?
I already tweeted it out. You can go and retweet it.
I'm going to go retweet that from the 810 account.
Or 810 account. That's fine.
Should I follow you on Twitter now?
No, don't worry about it.
I just hate your tweets.
But I was thinking about it this morning, and I'm like, man, if he continues to do this, if this is now a turning point for Brady Singer, where the last 2 games he's had 22 strikeouts and 3 walks, against the Tampa Bay Rays and the Yankees, by the way. He wasn't going up against the Reds or the Tigers. It was the Rays and the Yankees, his last 2 starts, 22 strikeouts, 3 walks, and a total of 1 earned run.
That'll play, I believe is what the kids say.
And because he had struggled earlier this year, started out of the bullpen, and the Royals sent him down. And we had Dayton on the show when he said to Brady, we had talked about this like last week, and he had said that, he said, hey, I talked to Brady Singer, and I told him there's no guarantee you'll ever be called back up. So don't think that this is just sent back down for a week or so, and then you're going to get the call back up. Some players never make it back up. Now, maybe he was just BSing. Maybe he was just like saying it so Brady could hear it. But I do wonder if that was the first time there was legit tough love for Brady Singer. As in not like, you figure it out. You're not going to throw the changeup. You'll get it. Let's just keep working on it. When you get the feel for it, just let us know, and then you start throwing it a little bit more. No, it was you're going to go down there and throw the changeup. And if you don't, you may not be called back up. And if you do, you might continue to be sitting out there beyond right field during the game and not in the dugout hanging out charting pitches when it's your day and then going every 5 days. And he comes back up, and the next 2 starts are 17% changeups the next 2 starts. And that, spreadsheet with all of those, red squares in there that are now 10% of changeups, he clearly got the message. And he's been a completely different pitcher. And when his stuff is on like it was last night, I don't know about Daniel Lynch. I mean, I know he's had some good starts. Lynch has through 4 innings or 5 innings. But I believe Brady Singer is the guy on the staff that actually has legit no-hit stuff when he's on. Because he gave up 1 hit against that lineup in 7 innings. Took 99 pitches to get there. But he's also had games in which he went 8 1/3. Went 8 1/3 against the A's. So he pitched into the 9th inning. So he's been, and that was on 99 pitches to get there. So it sort of depends on the game. But last night was no-hit stuff. And it was because he recorded 21 outs and gave up only 1 hit.
There are 2 things here. I think you kind of touched on both of them. But 2 things here just absolutely jump out to me. One's about Brady Singer and one's about Royals fans. For Brady Singer, I'm glad that you mentioned his previous start against the Rays, because I actually wasn't even sure if you were doing a bit or not when you were trying to think of the last time you were this excited about a start from a Royals pitcher. Because I think there could have been an argument that and certainly the last time that we cared about a Royals start was 5 days ago.
That's a good point.
When Brady Singer, but there's a huge difference between these 2. One is that he was a little more erratic and a little less erotic. There was a little more success from the Rays. Also, they won that game.
Yeah.
But that was a start where you go, he's now got a 1-run performance against the Tigers, gives up 2 against Tampa, gets through 6, 18 strikeouts in those 2. He's been striking out guys, throughout these last handful of starts. But last night sets that. Like that is putting your clay pot in the kiln and proving, hey, this isn't all just wet clay that might droop a little here or there, that might eventually fall off the table. Last night was consistency from Brady Singer. And we haven't, you want to talk about how long it's been since you've been able to say this young Royals pitcher has been consistently, if not perfect, very good for a month?
Yeah.
Brady Singer has done that. He's been consistently pretty darn good since he came back from Omaha. There was a hiccup or 2 in there. He's still a young pitcher. But it's been good, and last night was nearly immaculate. So that I just think that is worth even more than just 1 good start, because it is the punctuation on the best month he's had as a professional by 100 miles.
Yep.
The other thing is that I'm sure this isn't true for somebody listening right now, but if this is going to be to you, recalibrate, because what you actually saw from the Royals last night is way better than if they would have won that game 10-9 and Brady Singer would have been bounced after 3 and Whit Merrifield and Michael A. Taylor have a couple of big nights. It doesn't matter. The difference between you being 40 and 59, which they would have been with a win, they would have gotten out of the basement. They would have been a half game up on Detroit today. We wouldn't be talking about it. We'd be talking about Carlos Dunlap right now if the Royals had won this game 10-9. Or you might have your spreadsheet out and go, oh, this is the first time Brady Singer has got absolutely dunked on in a while. That seems bad. A 1-0 loss with Brady Singer looking like an ace against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium is more important than actually winning this game by 100 miles. You want that to change soon. You would like for them just winning baseball games to matter in a year or two. Hopefully, I mean, next year, certainly you want it to matter as soon as possible. But for last night, this is just as good of an outcome as you could ask for in the place that it mattered the most. You want if the offense never comes back around, our conversations will get more dire at some point.
Right.
But for the snippet of last night, this is all about Brady Singer.
In July, so you mentioned the best month of his career. So, you said that. I'm like, oh, well, let me look at what he's done in July. So that is 5 starts. In those 5 starts, he's got a 2.05 ERA. In 30 2/3 innings, he's got 44 strikeouts and 11 walks. 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. And 14 more Ks than innings pitched. 44 Ks in 30 2/3 innings. And 3 of those teams are the Guardians, the Rays, and the Yankees that he's done that against.
He pitched 2 more total innings this month than he did in June. And in June, he had 23 strikeouts opposed to the 42 of this month.
44. 10, 12, 6, 5, 9. Is my math
10,
wrong?
12, 6, 5, 9. I've got that being 42. I'm looking at the 10, month 12, splits 6, on ESPN.
10,
I don't.
22. 20,
I let other people do the math
30,
for me. I don't
32,
like to do my own math.
Yeah, it's 42. I was looking at another game in which he had 2 back at, for whatever reason, April 26th.
19 more strikeouts. Is that math
11.
right?
42 to 11. 42 Ks, 11 walks.
As opposed to 23 to 6 last month.
Yeah.
When he pitched 2 fewer innings, 6 fewer batters, 19 fewer strikeouts, a couple more walks. You'll take that every single time.
I think it is safe to, when we look ahead, and we'll take a timeout, we'll talk some Carlos Dunlap. I think it is safe now, and I say this with not wanting to fly too close to the sun. I do feel more confident in saying when I look ahead, Singer's in the rotation.
Yes.
If this team is popping champagne and this group of players is doing that, Singer's a part of that, and it's not because he was a badass 8th inning guy.
Yeah.
Or a really good closer with his sinker-slider combination, and he never figured out the changeup. He clearly has figured out the changeup, using it, and even the threat of that is different. And last night, he was in complete command, control, confident out there on the field. He was a bulldog out on the mound as well. And if I say Witt and MJ and Prado and Pasquantino and maybe throw in Massey and just questions about like Waters and Gavin Cross or some others and Salvi, Singer's 100% in that mix right now. 100%. And I know that Bubic has been somebody that people either like or hate. Since being called back up, Bubic, he's got just over a 4 ERA. And if he's your 5th starter and has 28, 30 starts in a season and has a 4 ERA as your 5th guy, yeah, that'll play. Bubic will be fine in the rotation. The problem is Bubic is doing that as like 3 other guys that have 4 ERAs as well. So you get frustrated with Bubic.
Yes.
But if every 5 days that guy goes out there and goes, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, or 5 innings, 3 earned runs, because he doesn't pitch into the 6th, but 5 innings, 3 earned runs, every 5 days, that's your worst guy? Yeah, you'll absolutely take that. I don't know what to expect out of Daniel Lynch. I still don't know what to expect out of Jackson Kowar. We'll find out. But if the offense is going to continue to be something that can progress and they can develop those guys, and if you feel like Singer is a guy that maybe you can at least hang your hat on, that there's at least one of those four. If you get Singer And if Lynch and Kowar wash out and they never do anything, and you get Singer that turns into this guy that could be like a true number 2 on a team, maybe potentially that number 1 that it's like, he's next tier number 1, and Bubic is a 5th starter, and that's all you get out of those 4, you run to the bank and you cash that check. 10 times out of 10, if you take 4 guys and you get 2 of them that end up doing that in your rotation. We'll see what happens moving forward as well. It's not always the best news. I do want to talk about MJ Melendez at some point during the show with Salvi maybe returning today. We'll talk about MJ Melendez and maybe a permanent move to right field if Cam Gallagher's still on the team. And Salvi, we can get it at some point. We'll talk some Carlos Dunlap on the other side of the break as some other things to get into and talk about. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show. 913-912-4810. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
And there's the joke. And there's the joke. 913-912-4810 had said that the Brady Singer conversation for a couple of years has been frustration since he pitched the entire season in 2020, the very shortened entire season. But if he literally missed one start down in the minors, they would have gained an extra year of control for him. They didn't do that. And so he was pacing to be eligible for free agency after 2026. But as we said in the first segment, the time spent down in the minors this year being optioned, they have gained an extra year of service time for Brady Singer. So now his earliest free agency is 2027. And the joke, as we were talking there and talking with Curtis, and like, well, now he's a free agent. He's not a free agent until after 2027. And he goes, oh, yeah, and a Yankee in 28. And there's the joke. There it is. And a Yankee in 28. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe they extend Brady Singer and get him 2 years past, free agency. But I guess that would still matter because 2 years past free agency would be 27, 28. Now 2 years past free agency would be 28, 29. Or maybe I'm 1 year ahead there. Either way, you get the point. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal that he struggled this year. So good on Brady Singer for not listening and developing that changeup earlier, because now he has more time to throw that changeup in a Royals uniform for one more year of control for the team.
4D chess.
It's exactly that's the Royals were like, don't worry about the changeup. Don't worry about the change. That's why they were slow playing it. It was the long con. We don't play the service time. Brady Singer came up from day one. Long con.
We reel back a little bit of that service time.
That's exactly right, man. 913-912-4810. I know we want to talk about Carlos Dunlap, but
always. I mean,
we
also have some time.
We do. We got like 3.5 hours left in the show. We'll hear a lot of
I was thinking
Chiefs.
like another month.
Oh, that too.
We'll get there.
That as well. But I did want to at least point this out. It's been all fun and games, with Brady Singer. Now, mind you, he was throwing to MJ Melendez last night. So it wasn't like it was, well, Cam Gallagher was there, and that's why Brady looked like that. So he was throwing to MJ Melendez. So that's, part of it. But Brady Singer was in control, was confident, borderline cocky on the mound, which is great. That bulldog mentality, and his sinker had so much run. It was amazing. When you see professional left-handed hitters step out of the way and it moves back into the strike zone, then you got your stuff working. Yeah. But MJ Melendez, let's look offensively. Let's look positive first. Let's look positive then negative. Last 17 games for MJ Melendez, slash line, 277, 333, 569 for a 903 OPS. 17 games, small sample size, as they say in baseball. Take a shot, listener. Small sample size. In that time, he's got 4 home runs, 5 doubles, 10 RBIs. Strikeouts are way too high. He's got 6 walks and 23 Ks in the 17 games. That's pacing this year for 24 home runs. But a 162-game pace would be 38 home runs, 48 doubles, 95 RBIs for MJ Melendez. What he has done in his last 17 games, okay? Again, 17 does not a 162 make. But it's just the pacing and the sample size and what he's done as of late. Okay. Offensively, he started off hot. He went through a struggle, and now he's turned it back around. Now he's playing at a pretty good clip. If he were to move to right field. So the value in MJ Melendez people talk about is that he's a catcher. All right? It's a premier position. It's hard to find a guy that can hit like that and play catcher. All right, Salvi's a pretty good example of a guy that can go out and hit 48 home runs and, also catch. As a right fielder, here is the list. And I'm just going off 24 home runs, which is what he is pacing for this year overall, is 24 home runs. Here is the list of Royals everyday right fielders to hit at least 24 home runs in a season as an everyday right fielder. You ready for this list? Okay, so listen in. You might want to write all these down.
I'm thinking back to our conversation with Les from last week, 2 weeks ago, and I'm guessing that this list. I'm gonna get carpal tunnel writing down all these names. Go ahead.
So.
Go ahead.
And you'll have to look. I may be talking for 5 minutes on all these names. Okay, so you may have to.
So right fielder, everyday right fielder, 24 plus home runs
in one season.
In
okay,
one
you ready?
Year. Yeah, hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and write down. I'm gonna go just number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, okay, I can start at 1 now.
Okay, here we go. Right fielders in Royals history with 24 home runs in a season is an everyday right fielder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jermaine Dye,
Yep.
Danny Tartable.
Tartable. Okay, I got it. Next one.
Mm-hmm. No, that's it.
That's
it. Yeah.
B-U-L. Okay, so I got Jermaine Dye.
Right.
Tartable.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
It's just a 2 main. Oh, the list only goes. Well, I wrote down a 3 and then a 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, no, you went too far.
It's just only 2.
Right. Yeah. So if MJ Melendez were the everyday right fielder and he hit just what he's pacing for the overall season this year, when he's had his struggles and some hot streaks, and pacing for 24 home runs,
his first major league action,
right, would be only the third time an everyday right fielder for the Royals in history had 20 everyday right fielder. Soler played some right field, he played some left field, he DH'd a good portion of games. I'm talking about here's your right fielder. Aren't many in Royals history to do that, but still, here's your right fielder. The list is Jermaine Dye and Danny Tartable.
Which is 1, 2. That's it. Just the 2.
It's just the 2.
Okay.
Yes. I bring that up because people look at the value of MJ Melendez being behind the plate.
Yep.
There are 48 catchers in Major League Baseball that have at least 250 innings behind the plate. 48 have done that. MJ Melendez, while he's been catching, has 33 wild pitches and 5 passed balls. Now, odd that those are 30 the wild pitches, because he leads in wild pitches. So 30, even though that's not credited to the catcher.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a wild pitch, it's a pass ball. 33. You take the 5 pass balls, 38 times MJ Melendez has been behind the plate in his 51 games, and the ball has gotten past him to the backstop, whatever. 38 times. Shockingly, that is the most in baseball of any catcher. 38. The second most is 31 by a catcher who has played 17 more games. 17 more games and 7 less wild pitches / pass balls. Defensive runs saved as a catcher. Remember, there are 48 catchers that have at least 250 innings caught. He ranks 48th. He is minus 13 on defensive runs saved. Minus 13 as a catcher in defensive runs saved. That is 48 out of 48. As a right fielder, limited sample size, because he's only got 65 innings as a right fielder. There are 103 players in Major League Baseball that have played at least 60 innings in right field. Defensive runs saved, he's 39th out of 103 as a right fielder. Use the ultimate zone rating 150, so average out just with everybody. He comes in at 63rd out of 103. He's an average right fielder. He is a crappy catcher. He is an awful, awful catcher.
Which he has significantly more experience doing.
Yes.
So room to improve in right field, you would argue. Probably kind of seeing what he might actually be at catcher.
Yeah. And that's why I brought up the right fielders in Royals history, because you go, well, yeah, but the value is in the bat behind the plate.
He could be like the third. He could be a top 3 right fielder in Royals history if they just move him and he keeps hitting.
And if he just does that from what he's pacing this year in his first ever year, while also continually worrying about being a catcher.
Right.
Handling the pitching staff, getting better, knowing that the ball keeps finding the backstop when he's back there, including a pitch last night where he thought he caught it and went to his glove to take the ball out and realized the ball was laying over in the on-deck circle for the Yankees. I want him to be awesome as a catcher because there is a ton of value in that. A ton of value in what he could do offensively as a catcher. But if the reputation was that he was a defensive catcher, then the reputation is that Nicky Lopez has the power of Aaron Judge. Because it seems like it's the same from a defensive catcher. When Salvi comes back, which seems to be soon, 2 at-bats last night. They said it last night. He's got a locker in the clubhouse in New York with his name on it. Salvi, or it says Salvador Perez, whatever. So, 13, Salvador Perez. They've got a locker there for him. They expect him to be playing in this series. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. But when that happens, he'll go behind the plate. MJ Melendez, probably in right field, where he played the other day, crashed into the wall. Don't want to see that happening, but he's made some plays out there. I do wonder if there's a point to when the Royals just go, here you go.
This isn't your point, but I'm just so glad they're rushing Salvador Perez back to
absolutely.
play
Yes,
with
definitely.
a injury with half the recovery time they originally said he was going to need.
Maybe
to
late August,
recover
right?
from it. Yeah. I'm glad they're bringing him back up about 4 weeks before the original projection to play some meaningless games against the Yankees. He might be able to get a hit and then have no one knock him in.
Yeah, just like last time when he didn't need surgery and they said, you're going to be out minimum 3-4 weeks, and he was out like 11 days. So
And he came back, crushed the baseball, and then got more hurt again.
Yeah.
I want really quick, just a real quick disclaimer. I want Salvador Perez to be as happy and healthy and baseball playing as possible at all times. I have learned to stop doubting Salvador Perez. I don't doubt that he might play good baseball if he came back today. I just don't know that this is what you would do to a aging catcher who you want to keep healthy and maybe in a cryogenic chamber for the remainder of his career, but we all want to be as long as possible.
And you owe him $70 million still?
I just might say, Salvi, we love you dearly. You're the face of this organization. You have been for a long time. Take a vacation. Yeah. Put your hand in a cast and just go to a beach. Baseball will be here when you come back.
Right.
Genuine. No one on planet Earth will ever doubt how much Salvador Perez loves playing baseball. It is the most obvious thing on the planet, and it's joyous. The hard thing for him might be not playing baseball, which I respect, but just do anything else and just get a little... Take your time.
Sometimes you got to step in for the betterment of the player.
Yes, just please, somebody beg him to just be around all the time if he wants. Be in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Just don't... there's no hurry here.
Come on, Terrence Gore was around the team for like a month, and he never did anything. I believe Danny Klingscale called him the team's mascot when he made the team out of spring training. I don't remember what year that was. And Danny Klingscale, I mean, when you've got a mascot as one of your 25 players, don't tell me that you're willing and you're going to compete this year. Your mascot.
I don't think your Danny's gravelly enough. I think it's
Sorry.
I'll try to be better at that.
I'm just saying. Terrence Gore is a nice playoff piece. But spare me that he deserves a spot on this team. So if they had him for like a month, you could have Salvi there. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Wrap up this hour, and then a lot of Chiefs. A lot of Chiefs. We'll hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear from Clark Hunt. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Ronald Jones. And then Matt Derrick, who is in St. Joe. We'll talk with him in the noon hour. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. Jason Anderson.
You're dumb, but you're not stupid.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Nine 913-912-4810 text line. Text says, I guess we're going to keep both Perez and Melendez on the team. Along with Pasquantino and Prado, Melendez basically has to play right field. I'm fine with that because he's not built like a normal catcher, and I think some work with Rusty would get him so much better out there. Yeah, I mean, look, if they end up moving him to right field full-time, I understand that. Because actually seeing him behind the plate and the struggles that are there, it might be the best. But if this is a matter of he's just going through some growing pains and he's just going to be average as a catcher and not Salvi, don't be 48 out of 48 out of all the catchers in Major League Baseball this year who have at least 250 innings caught. Don't be 48th in defensive runs saved. Don't be dead last. Don't be number one in wild pitch and pass balls combined. And don't be number one by 7 in 17 fewer games. Can you be somewhere middle of the pack? Can you improve? Can MJ Melendez ascend to middle of the pack defensively? Because if so, now you're talking about a really, really valuable player in MJ Melendez. He's valuable in right field because I think the bat will play. But if, and these are big ifs, if we're looking ahead to 24 and 5 and whatever, if Drew Waters is their center fielder that they hope he turns out to be, if a Gavin Cross is good enough and has a quicker ascension and is a right fielder for the Royals, if Vinny Pasquantino continues to be on the team and hit rockets and is your DH, if Prado is your first baseman, then what do you do with Salvi and MJ Melendez? I don't know what you end up doing at that point. And maybe, it could be that Gavin Cross moves to left field or something like that, or Melendez in left field. He's got a good enough arm to play either side. But, I also think that, and I know that they drafted Caden Wallace from Arkansas, but if you're a catcher with as strong of an arm and an athlete, could you play third base? Could you move over to third and then his bat still plays there? I don't know what the future is going to be for MJ Melendez and Salvador Perez. But I know they've got some redundancy there, and they've got a guy who struggles behind the plate defensively. And then they have Salvi, who's aging but is still productive.
And to your point about the athleticism, I think catcher, and I still instinctively think about Pudge Rodriguez.
Yeah.
MJ Melendez isn't built like Pudge. The athleticism that comes with that, the hardest part of all this, I think, in all likelihood, most baseball players would agree, maybe not, is hitting the baseball. And ideally hitting it far and frequently and consistently.
Slugging it.
If you can take that athlete and put him in a couple different spots and see what that versatility could look like, I feel like MJ Melendez could be an average defender at maybe a couple different spots. And right now he's not that behind the plate. Salva's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's okay. I get it.
They moved Biggio around. He's a catcher to second to center field. Not saying that's what MJ Melendez is, but if he offers you that versatility, where does he end up playing? But
good problems for the most part.
Not bad. It's better than not having anybody if you have too many.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You're dumb, but you're not stupid.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Unlike the last couple of days where the Chiefs have had shorter practices out in St. Joe, today is a longer practice, so roughly 2 hours or so. They got out to the practice field around 9:15, or at least that's when they started practice at 9:15. So we're expecting sometime in the next 10, 15, 20 minutes or so, we'll hear from Andy Reid, we'll hear from Clark Hunt, we'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, we'll hear from Ronald Jones, Rojo, they call him. I like the running back room this year, as an aside, as a sidebar. I do like the running back room this year. I liked Ronald Jones coming out of college. I still think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a talented running back. And I think over the last year or so, people have gotten to know my appreciation and love of Jerick McKinnon. And I was really hoping he would have more of an impact throughout the season last year. But I was glad that he finally got to show what he could do as the every down back, if need be, with the Chiefs, and he was dynamite in the postseason. The only 3 games that he started, essentially pacing out over 17 games would be roughly 1,900 total yards from scrimmage.
Could take that.
Rushing and receiving for Jerick McKinnon, what he did in the playoffs. So I like the running back room. We talked a little bit before the show. You wanted to weigh in a couple more points on Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing or takeaway and reaction is. So any further advancement of the story on Carlos Dunlap, who is not at practice today. The funeral for his father is today.
Yeah, so whenever he gets to St. Joe, obviously he's done plenty of training camp. I'm sure he's in great shape. Visit all went well and all that. So, just, hope that he makes it back and things go well in the meantime. But yeah, there are a few different things that over the last 12 hours or whatever have continued to become more clear to me. One thing we talked about a little bit yesterday that I think is worth reiterating is, and also I read, if you haven't read, Seth Kaiser's latest review up in the Chief of the North newsletter that he's got, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. I'm used to giving out that URL like 15 times a week, but now it's now life's different. So go check that out if you haven't yet.
You don't have the URL anymore?
I don't have him on every Tuesday night to just berate him about how little he charges for his newsletter. So
Seren's all like, "Oh, we got him on once a week."
I just have to talk to Seth like in private. Like I have to just like call him, be like, "Seth, can you please explain football to me again?" And he does still because he's a nice man.
Hey, Seren, I'm gonna have Jeff Passan on. No, okay, cool. I'll go for another baseball guest.
Sometimes I text Seren just to ask if I can talk to Seth. I want to make sure that they're all good. No, but so obviously Seth does incredible work. And whenever he's on the program to talk about Dunlap, that will be must listen.
And it is always appointment radio when he's on there.
Which does mean it doesn't qualify for your independent study hours. Just so you know that since it's appointment listening, you can't use that for your 4 independent hours. It's a whole thing.
But we have now rescinded your 4 independent hours. You no longer
okay,
have
do whatever you want.
You no longer have to have 4 hours.
You're set free.
Yeah.
Cardinals handled all that well.
Yes.
But the main thing for me is that I feel like I'm going to overhype and undercut Carlos Dunlap in almost the inverse of what was happening last year with Melvin Ingram. This is going to all sound contradictory, but I think last year Melvin Ingram, the football player, got overrated by a little bit. I think
with the Chiefs?
With the Chiefs.
Okay.
I think his impact for the Chiefs was properly rated, if not actually a little underrated. And that is where it comes back to me for Dunlap, where he's not going to personally carry this pass rush. If he is your number 1 pass rusher, your unit is still not good enough. But his presence makes the unit better more than his individual presence makes an impact on its own in a vacuum, because pass rushing doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is a team sport within a team sport, and the Chiefs didn't have any consistency, any certainty, any depth, and Dunlap adds a little bit in all of those categories. If he is just a positive force as a part-time player, he will have an exponential impact on the entirety of the pass rush as a unit. So I want to acknowledge where he has his shortcomings as a player right now and entering year 13 of his career. he has no speed or bend around the edge. This is Seth's review. Dug in more on this. I'll let you go read that if you haven't yet. But not you, Jason, but the listener or Beards.
I can read it a second time.
He has incredible length. His leverage is ridiculous. He's pretty strong at this point, but he doesn't have a whole variety of moves. He's not going to bend around the edge he's not an extra Bosa brother, right? That's not where his game is now. It might not be where his game has ever been. We talked about yesterday Matt Lane saying this is a guy for George Karlaftis to learn from. Mm-hmm. Karlaftis doesn't have that bend, but the impact that his presence can have with him performing at just a plus level has a domino effect on everybody else. Maybe George Karlaftis doesn't have to be the guy immediately. Or Frank Clark has a little bit taken off his shoulders. And Mike Dana goes from your 3 to your 4. Josh Caindale goes from your 4 to your 5. Those domino effects matter a ton for a pass rush unit. So I think that you can simultaneously say, don't put money on Carlos Dunlap to be a Pro Bowler this year. But also, he doesn't need to be. He needs to be a complementary part of this pass rush where all of a sudden, he knows what he's doing in a stunt. Chris Jones would love to play next to Carlos Dunlap. This will be good for him. It will be good for everybody else, even if he's not a Pro Bowler at this point in his career. And I think it ultimately makes for a really interesting addition for a pass rush that still could use some more top-end talent, could still have somebody raise the ceiling. If George Karlaftis is the Rookie of the Year, this will be a big addition for everybody. But even if he's just a positive force, he's going to do a lot of good things in this unit.
So I want you to back up to what you were talking about with Melvin Ingram from a year ago. And I don't quite know the way that you phrased it. I was trying to write it down, and then my pen ran out of ink. So what happens?
I talked too fast.
No, you're fine. I would have been able to write it down, but the pen ran out of ink. So, now I got to figure out finding a new one.
It's like keyboards.
I
get it. No, I understand.
I like to write things down.
I got my pen.
You remember them more when you write them down instead of
true.
typing it. That's been scientifically proven.
No, that's fair.
So you said underrated or overappreciated with him, but yet his numbers were there. Elaborate a little bit on that, because I was kind of confused when you were saying it, because I'm like, it sounded like you were saying the same thing, that one was underrated and one was overrated, but it was the same thing.
No, I'm saying I think Dunlap will have a similar impact to Ingram last year, but I think Ingram last year, for a lot of Chiefs fans, he became like the solution for the pass rush. He was the thing that fixed their issues. He was the best pass rusher on the team. And I think Ingram's individual performance would not have jumped out in a vacuum. He had some big moments, which is all you can ask for occasionally, but his consistency was not to where Dunlap's has been over the last even later years of his career. He had some, he might have been a better pass rusher last year than Frank Clark even was, but it was intermittent, and he wasn't a constant menace in the way that you would, like a number one defensive end, a top 10 defensive end would be.
Right.
But I do think that his collective impact on that unit as a whole was properly rated, or could continue to be appreciated even more. That losing Ingram was more about what it does for the unit than what they've lost in Melvin Ingram, the specific player.
So Melvin Ingram takes the unit from a, I'm just going to use a round number, don't think it's 1 through 10, but takes it from a 10 to a 15. So he increased the unit by 5 points. Melvin Ingram, if he's off on his own, he's a 3.
Yes. I think that, again, whatever our scale is going to be, yes, that he added an there's an exponential growth in pass rushing, where especially when you're going from a negative, where right now, if Mike Dana, from a pure pass rushing perspective, I hate that I always use Mike Dana because I actually think he's a nice football player. I don't mean to make him the one I dunk on or whatever. But Mike Dana as a pass rusher on this scale might be a -3. You know, where you go, he is below replacement level at this spot. Being able to get that negative out of there with somebody who is just a slight positive, like Ingram was last year, like Dunlap could be this year, is going to do things for the collective that outweighs what their individual impact would be, I guess, as a -3 or a +3 or whatever that might be.
You know what? Here's Andy Reid.
Face when he comes in, at least. But he brings some senior leadership in there and experience.
We saw Josh Williams get some opportunities with the ones. What have you seen behind the scenes that allowed you to trust him to get that opportunity early?
Yeah, listen, I think he's a good player. You know, I got to see now. We got to see how this thing goes as we work down, work into the day as the numbers build up here. But he looks good skill, and we'll see. we'll just see how it goes.
There was a lot of questions about maybe him not playing against pro-level competition at the college level. What would you say about that?
Yeah, well, I think he's come out here and shown that he can do that, and he's not shying away. He's a big kid for that position. He's a big kid, and he can run long, and I think he's very, very smart. So just innately smart kid, and so he's been able to pick it up. The mental part of it, he's been able to pick up. He's working a couple fundamental things, and like I said, he's smart. So he's looking at himself and he's saying, "I got to get better at this." And you can see him out here working on it. Yeah.
Like how these receivers play a lot of big plays.
Yeah. So we have some experience. I mean, that's guys that have played in games. They're new faces, but they're not. It's not a ton of young guys that are playing in those spots. So it's just a matter of Pat and the receivers being on the same page, and the more they do it, the better they're going to be. And then with Sky being the young kid, he made a couple nice plays, and again, it's him learning the game. He's very strong, though. You can see he's got great feet and very strong in the core area, and so that's going to come in handy for him as he goes through this.
He's got a couple days with Roderick and left tackle. How have you seen him settle into that position?
Yeah, I like Roderick. He doesn't say much. I mean, you don't want him in the tent here. You're not going to hear much. So, but he's a good, solid player. You know, I mean, we're not set. You know, we saw the Orlando thing out there, and all, but if you can go play with Roderick. I mean, he can jump in there and play the game. So that I like what I'm seeing. I look forward to seeing him in pads, but he's got some experience, so I know what he can do, I think.
Andy, we're getting Patrick today. I just wonder, early on into camp, in meetings, like sort of away from the field, just what have you seen, what have you sort of noticed so far?
Yeah. So he's really taken to that and stepped up his game in that role. I think you guys know he's a great communicator, and he's using that skill that he has to talk to these new players, and so that's different for him, right? I mean, this is a new thing for him with the number of guys that we have coming in that are new. So, but I think he's handling all that great. He's a tremendous leader. He's always been that, and he's working hard. I mean, he's going to work. He's going to work. He's going to be here early. He's going to leave late. The whole deal. So he exhausts the game while he has an opportunity to do that.
Coach, speaking of Patrick, does it surprise you at all that folks still don't consider him a tier one player, and that when he scrambles, he's considered a street ball player? Yeah, listen, I mean, a lot of coaches have to teach guys how to roll out and call plays to do that. We just do it. He just doesn't. No, he's tremendous. He's tremendous. Yeah, no, I know if you guys look at Pro Football Focus and all those things, so just take a peek at that and see how many times he hits the second receiver.
So I think Andy Reid saw the PFF tweet that came out a couple of days ago on Patrick Mahomes after his first read. That since 2018, his PFF grade is number one in the NFL, his yards number one in the NFL, and his touchdowns number one in the NFL. Here is Clark Hunt.
This week, and I think the energy's been terrific. I know Coach Reid and his staff are delighted to be back here. They think the environment is great here in terms of what they need to get done over the next three and a half weeks. And it's great also to have our fans here. I know the players appreciate it. It brings a level of energy to the practices, and thought the guys did a great job out there today. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Not exactly necessarily about football, but Mark was talking the other day a little bit about your relationship with Bayern Munich. And obviously that goes beyond just the Chiefs, but also with Hunt Sports overall. How has, the last few years you've been in that partnership, how has it worked, and how do you really see them being able to help you into that German market?
Yeah, so our relationship with Bayern Munich started with our MLS club, FC Dallas. We established a partnership about 4 years ago that was focused on youth player development. They ended up buying a player from our academy named Chris Richards, who just transferred to the EPL. So it's been a very successful partnership. And as the NFL went through the process of making the decision to go to Germany, obviously Bayern's really the biggest sporting brand in Germany. And so having that relationship was very advantageous for us. We've talked for a number of years about hopefully the Chiefs having the opportunity to play in Allianz Arena. It's not going to happen this year, but we hope here in the next couple of years that it will.
This being an election year, I'm just wondering if you have a feeling about players taking a position endorsing a candidate or a ballot amendment.
We encourage our players to be civically active, and that's something they're doing as individuals on their own behalf, and I certainly applaud that. Obviously, politics is very divisive, and so there are going to be people on both sides of the issue when a player endorses somebody, but we support their efforts and encourage them to get involved.
A lot of new leadership across the university and in the city. Just what's it been like kind of meeting some of the new folks within Missouri Western? And we heard from Mark a little bit Monday just kind of about the future of this agreement with St. Joseph and training camp here. I guess what have those discussions been like on your end, just the future of camp in St. Joe?
Yeah, well, we've been here over a decade with the one exception during COVID, and it's been fantastic for the team. I mean, Andy and his staff have really enjoyed being here. I mentioned at the onset that they believe this environment is really conducive to getting the guys ready. The university has been very responsive over the course of our relationship in terms of making changes to help the experience be better. From my vantage point, so far this has been one of the best camps or starts to camp. It's something that we'll evaluate once camp is done. We do that every year, and certainly I hope we'll be back in the future.
We see a lot of teams that decide to stay home. What advantages in your eyes is it being away from Kansas City?
You're exactly right. I think we're one of 6 or 7 teams now that goes away for camp as more and more have moved back to their facilities. I think there's a bonding process that happens when you put the team in a dorm room for 3.5 weeks. You don't have the comforts of home. There's a chance to really focus on football. Not 24/7 because the guys do have some time off, but probably 12 hours a day they're focused on football. They're together, they're talking about football, they're encouraging each other to get better. They have the interaction with the coaches throughout the day and also the rest of the staff. So I really think it's a positive and hope that we'll be able to come back, as I mentioned.
Can you explain maybe how those conversations have developed, maybe this offseason compared to obviously when he was trying to get his foot sort of solidified in the NFL?
Yeah, well, Patrick's maturing as a player and as a leader, and he's somebody who very early on took a leadership role in our locker room. He and Coach Reed and General Manager Brett Veach have a very special relationship, and I wouldn't say that I speak to him a lot about the composition of the roster, but I know Coach Reed and Brett keep him in the loop and listen to his opinion. He's very mature, really beyond his years, and sort of sees the big picture, and so they're glad to have his input. And obviously, given his importance to the team, I think it's important that he have a word or a say in the decisions that we're making.
How do you see that maturation, maybe these past few months, in ways that sort of still maybe impress you, or that you can just tell that he's obviously growing in that sort of role within the organization?
Yeah, I would really just say it's, hearing secondhand from Brett Veach about the conversations that they've had about the team. I think that question would be better for Brett when you have a chance. I think he would give you a better answer on it. But I would just go back to he understands the big picture and is not real short-term focused in his thinking. So anyhow, I'll just leave it at that.
What do you think his reaction would be to the World Cup being played at Arrowhead Stadium?
I think he would be over the moon, literally. I think you guys have heard me mention before that Arrowhead was his favorite place on earth, and he played such an important role in the growth of soccer in the United States, going all the way back to the 1960s. He was a believer long before others that the sport would succeed here. I know he really enjoyed the 1994 World Cup that came to the United States, but there weren't games in Kansas City. There were games in Dallas. And as a family, we went to pretty much, every venue during that '94 World Cup. But I know he would be so excited to host games at Arrowhead, primarily for the fans, right? The fans in the Midwest are going to have a chance with a short drive to come see world-class soccer and really one of the greatest spectacles in the world.
The seats could come out, come back in, come out, come back in over a 2-year period.
Yeah. I think we have a good plan on that. We're gonna have to be very focused on the timeline to make sure we get it done. That's why it's going to happen over a 2-year period. We do have to alter the stadium so we can put in a regulation-size soccer field.
It seems like every team has an alternate helmet or different colored jerseys. Why is it so important for you all to keep the traditional look that you have now?
Yeah. Well, part of our mission statement is to honor tradition, and part of that tradition is the Chiefs' colors, red, white, and the gold stripe. My dad was always very, very focused on making sure that our uniform stayed consistent, which if you go all the way back to the beginning, it's changed very little. I think, a fan, no matter where they are, whether in the United States or now overseas, when they see the red and gold, they know exactly what team that is. And I think that's just very important for the brand.
Last time we spoke to you on the stadium stuff, you guys were beginning stages of a study to figure out, the current composition of it if it needed to be rebuilt. I just wondered what the early findings so far and what the process is right now.
Yeah, that process is ongoing. We're very hopeful that we'll be able to renovate Arrowhead when the time comes, but we're probably still, a year plus away from being able to make that determination. It's not what I've learned through the process is it's not a very simple answer when you're trying to make a decision about whether a building can go another 25 or 30 years starting in 8 years from now. Yeah, so we're being very methodical about it. We want to get to the right answer because it's very important.
I just want to make sure I understood that, but you're hopeful that you would be able to just stay there and renovate the current structure of the building?
Yes, that would be our number one priority. We're going to evaluate all the options. Obviously, we've got to figure out what's best for the franchise, what's best for the fan base. But it starts with evaluating Arrowhead, and that's where we are right now.
You talked a minute ago about special relationship that has with both Brett and can you elaborate on that? What you've seen, what you've witnessed over the years that makes you say that with each of those guys?
I know he and Brett have very frequent communication because when I'm speaking to Brett on a weekly basis, he's had a conversation with Pat about something that's important to the team. So I think that communication between the two of them is very unique, and special. And then obviously, he and Andy are talking all the time. Their conversations are more about scheme, and what we can do to get better on the field, what we can do, to take on a specific opponent. But they have a very close relationship. And then I would just go back to the fact that we have such a good relationship between our head coach and GM. So you've got really the three most important people associated with the team that are very close together, which I think is part of why we've been so successful over the last 4 years.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys.
I think of the street ball stuff that we've heard about you and kind of what came out with Tyler's contract. Do you think you're evaluated differently because you are a black quarterback?
I don't want to go that far and say that. I mean, obviously, the black quarterback has had a battle to be in this position that we are, to have this many guys in the league playing. And I think every day we're proving that we should have been playing the whole time. We've got guys that think just as well as they can use their athleticism. And so it always is weird when you see guys like me, Lamar, Kyler kind of get that on them and other guys don't. But at the same time, we're going to go out there and prove ourselves every day to show that we can be some of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Patrick, what are your thoughts so far on Sky Moore and how do you feel like he can really contribute to this offense?
Yeah, I mean, he's a tough player. He's a smaller as far as height, but he's thicker as far as a receiver. And I think you see that he's making a lot of tough contested catches over the middle. He's thinking a lot because, I mean, he's a rookie getting thrown into the offense, and we're not holding back at all. But you can tell when he knows what he's doing. He runs some great routes, has great releases, and I think can be a big part of our offense moving forward.
You sense that he settled in a little bit more today. It seemed like he was a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, and I think he's getting more and more trust within the coaching staff and within me, and that just comes with reps. To give him the chances to make plays, and when you watch the film and you might choose to throw it on one side, you look to the other side and you see he's getting open, then you come back and put that in your kind of your head, and you're like, oh, tomorrow I might give him a chance to make a play on that one. And I think you saw that today with that catch kind of down the field where he kind of dove and made a big contested catch. Even though he's not the tallest guy, he can make those tough catches, and he can build that trust with the quarterbacks.
I want to ask you at the start of the season. I mean, obviously you always want to start well, but particularly with the new group and then the way last year didn't start off for the first 3 weeks, do you feel like there's even a particular importance on maybe that first month? It's obviously pretty difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've done a great job of that these last few years, except for the last year. And you can say that, especially with this new energy that we have with a new group, that guys are going to be ready to go. And I mean, we're going to have to be. We have a very tough beginning of our schedule, and really the whole schedule. But so you're going to have to bring it every single week. I think Coach Reed runs this training camp the way that he does in order for us to be prepared for the start of the season.
So much of the story this year, one way or another, is life after Tyreek. Just your opening impressions of how the offense feels, with him no longer here, and maybe spreading the ball out around a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. When you have a guy of Tyreek's caliber, a lot of times when you have those one-on-one matchups, you kind of say, forget the rest of the read. Let me just go to this guy. Whereas with the offense that we have now and the group of receivers that we have now, we have a lot of guys that are good, can make plays in individual routes. And so you kind of get through your progressions even more. I think it's special when you have an offensive coordinator like Eric Bieniemy, you have a head coach like Coach Reed, and all these great offensive minds on the offensive side of the ball that they're designing these plays. And I can go through my reads, and there's usually someone open on pretty much all of them.
National conversation about the Chiefs taking a step back while the rest of the division comes up. I just wonder what your thoughts are when you hear things like that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you build the culture that we've built, I mean, you expect to go out there and your first goal is to win the AFC West. And if you're winning the AFC West this year, you're probably pretty close to the top of the AFC. So we just go in with that mindset that we know our division is going to be tough. It's tough every year. Always got great teams in it, and obviously it's even elevated this year. So we focus on those opponents and try to do whatever we can week by week to play our best football and put ourselves in position to be in the playoffs and hopefully at Arrowhead.
You've had a lot of success so far in your short career. When you see people say that you're not a tier 1 QB, do you feel like you still have more to prove, or is it just like whatever?
Yeah, I mean, you always feel like you have more to prove. I promise Tom Brady's feeling like he has more to prove, and I think that comes with any sport, any competitor. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse, and They build you up to tear you down, and you got to kind of know that. And for me, it's all about how can I make myself better, not what other people say. How can I make myself better so that we go out there and win football games? And at the end of the day, nothing matters until you're on that football field playing, and that's where you get to prove who you are every single day.
A couple more, guys.
The schedule, obviously it would be more beneficial if you guys played easier opponents, but it seems like you kind of relish playing pretty tough schedule. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure, because when you play good opponents and you have to bring it every single week, when you get to the playoffs, you're just playing a regular season football game. We're playing playoff caliber guys every week that we're in this league, and to be able to go out there and have that schedule like that, when you kind of get to those big games, it's not about playing anything different than you do in that regular season game. I think that prepares you for that.
All right, thank you.
Hey.
How you like campus so far?
It's cool. It's different. It's definitely a different environment. I feel like, college NFL atmosphere. So.
How is Coach Reed's vibe different from Coach Arians' vibe?
It's kind of similar. Both old school guys. Legendary status. So a lot of similarities with the program.
What did you hear about Andy Reid's camp before you came to it, and is he amounted to what you heard?
I actually didn't hear too much because I came in with wide eyes and stuff. So just going through the motions and stuff and find out more day by day. I'm liking it.
What would you say is the personality of the running back room this year?
This year, yeah, it's a lot of competition. We got a lot of good guys. Guys, vets. With rings and stuff like that. So I really like the group. I'm learning every day, so it's been good.
What do you think you bring to that group that's different than what they already have?
I bring run game element, all those things. I can take it the distance, things like that.
The Chiefs decided to sign Jet, and just how has your relationship been so far now that you guys are here?
Yeah, it's been good. I was talking to Jet the other day. He said he's going on year 9, so I'm just taking everything that he's saying. He's been in this offense. He's won too, so yeah, it's been good.
Learn from him.
Definitely with play recognition, just the integrity of the plays. How to run it. Every play is like got a different certain timing. Versus my other offense. I was in, so just learn that shit. That stuff. My bad.
Most? You've been through camps a couple times now, but what excites you most when you guys actually do put on the pads and it feels more like football?
Yeah. Once we put on the pads, it's a real deal. So can't wait for that. Preseason games even gonna be exciting this year. Completely new offense. Get to reinvent myself, things like that.
Are you excited to play against Tampa after being in there so long?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know the whole defense. Their schemes, all that. So it's gonna be a good one. Things back in Tampa too.
Talk about the difference between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, both Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Obviously different quarterback, but just talk about just working with both quarterbacks and knowing kind of what they offer.
Yeah, definitely. I can see a lot of similarities, like you said, leadership. Both got the quality. So, he's still chasing rings to get to him. I'm here to help that. So.
You're trying to learn and obviously get to use everybody. Is there something that you can sort of see with this offensive line that gives you sort of an impression that you're going to have a good opportunity to run the football?
Oh yeah, the offensive line real great. That's part of the reason why I saw obviously with the coach and the quarterback. So hand in hand offense. It's a match made. That you want as a running back.
So when y'all do 11 on 11 team run, does that give you a good vision of what's going to be like in the basketball?
Yeah, dude. It's a little blurry right now without the pass, but like you said, when they come on, then you'll know for real. So I can't wait for that. That's good. Appreciate y'all.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Here we are standing today. Excuse my language. We're a couple of days away from kickoff. Man, that slipped.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Are you done here, Beards?
Thought I had a little bit more time.
Beards, you know who you're working with? You got a breath, Jason?
Well, I mean, I asked Beards, I'm like, hey, real quick, I got to run to the fridge. How long do we have? He's like, about a minute. I'm like, okay. So I walk back there, and then I'm in the middle of getting a drink, and I hear the music start to play. And I was like, hey, I thought I had a minute. He's like, it's been a minute. I didn't walk back to I was making an Arnold Palmer. You know?
Ooh, I love a little Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer alert. Boop. Arnold Palmer alert. Who wants some Arnie Palmies? Boop, boop.
Is that? I don't know that reference either. But I almost called it I like to call him an Army Parmy. I almost called it an Army Parmy, and I thought I don't need to introduce that right now. What is that a reference to?
The other guys.
Sorry.
My goodness, man.
I was watching the other movies.
It's Christina. You come in my house, you get my wife's name right. God, you need to see that movie.
Wife's name is Christina.
Christina.
Pretty good. It's pretty funny.
That's right. All right, 913-912-4810. We'll talk about Clark Hunt, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, different things they talked about, a few points to take away. But Ronald Jones, he was the most recent one, weighing in on the offensive line, the running back room, the competition. He had mentioned that the offensive line was, quote, part of the reason why I signed.
Yeah.
He said along with the coach and the QB, but the offensive line, part of the reason that Ronald Jones signed, which is interesting because a couple of years ago that would not have been the case. The offensive line, well, I would have signed there, but who knows who was going to play offensive line for them. Pretty good offensive line last year that showed out, and Ronald Jones, one of the reasons why he wanted to sign. So I thought that was interesting, and there's different guys in the running back room because I think it's going to be. I think it's a good running back room.
I do too.
I like the group that they have there.
All of a sudden, Pacheco, who they obviously spent a late draft pick on, and Derek Gore, who did some stuff as an undrafted free agent. You know, last year he had a couple of little pops. Those guys are kind of outside looking in right now. I mean, there's probably a competition between one of those guys to get one spot. There's some depth there with Jones, with McKinnon, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde seems like he's good to go. That's all interesting.
Hopefully.
For now. And listen, here's the thing. No running back is ever healthy for 17 games. Derrick Henry did it for like 2 years. It was like, oh, he's different. And then he got hurt because it's a difficult thing to do 17 times in a regular season. I also think from Ronald Jones, so every once in a while you'll get a snippet from a player where you go, oh, that's different than what I would have guessed. Or I'm hearing something I wouldn't have said. And for Ronald Jones, talking about what he's learned from Jerick McKinnon, using the phrase "the integrity of the play," that is something that and that might have even been a term they used a lot in Tampa because I haven't heard Chiefs use that phrase very often. But talking about a running back, particularly in pass protection, preserving the integrity of the play is such an interesting way I think of framing what your job is there. Talking about it being kind of blurry without the pads is a funny turn of phrase for a running back who is still out there in shells. But I'm excited to see what he ends up doing in this offense because I think at the very least, the worst case scenario is that he is a little redundant to what they've been asking Clyde to do these last couple of years. And even if there's some redundancies there, he will get work in that role, and I think he'll do well in it.
I read read into the him saying the integrity of the play as you're learning an offense. The way I hear that is the play is designed to go here.
Yeah.
Here are the reasons. That's why I'm not going to bounce it outside on the first view of, okay, I see the left shoulder of my, left guard there, and I got to bounce it out. Oh, wait. No, he's sliding a little bit more to the left. That's why I see that shoulder, and that shoulder is going to disappear because it's freaking Joe Tooney,
right?
And it's going to open up. Therefore, I can slide around, his backside and go through that hole instead of just immediately like one cut, go. I'm taking this outside because I think I got to get around this guy that's getting through my left guard. That's what it sounds like to me in sort of the integrity of the play, which then goes into it's blurry,
right?
And then we put pads on, start to make more sense of what's happening with this team.
And just how many different things in the Chiefs' offense have multiple moving parts. I mean, every single play has multiple moving parts, but almost every play probably has more moving parts than you could possibly fathom upon.
Right.
If Andy Reid diagrammed a play to you at full speed, I think I would be spinning in a circle by the end of it and asking if we could repeat that 10 or 12 more times. So the idea of a newcomer coming in and going, all right, first thing for me to do is to make sure these plays happen the way they're supposed to because they're happening for a reason.
Patrick Mahomes, a couple things that I heard from Mahomes, and that is going through his press conference. He was asked about starting well. This team has done a really good job of being, undefeated in September. Last year they struggled out of the gates. They had the turnover issues, and so that's what he said. They've done a great job of getting off to good starts, except for last year. And he said, you can tell with the new energy with this group about how excited and ready to go this team is and looking forward to week one. The new energy stood out to me on this team because we have discussed the potential issues of, is it getting stale? Not even from like the fans' enjoyment of it, but is it getting stale to where the Chiefs are doing the same thing over and over again? The players are going through the same repetitions, and even though it might be successful, it starts to become mundane, and you're supposed to go through those reps because it makes you better, but you're sort of doing the same thing, and that's why they come up with the different Ferrari package and the Travis Kelce throwing the ball, because it adds a little wrinkle of fun for everybody to spice things up a little bit. But you changed out so many pieces from 2019 to the run it back to then kind of just keeping a lot of it together last year. And whether or not that got stale to the, quote, new energy of training camp, because there are so many guys on this team that don't have a ring.
Yeah.
There are so many guys on this team that are, just trying to figure it out. And joining a team that's successful but didn't have a role in holding up the Lombardi Trophy. Because the number is from 2019 from the Super Bowl to this year, players that actually took a snap in the game. There are 7 players.
Yeah, that seems right.
I don't remember the exact number.
I was going to say 6,
it ain't many.
Just as a guess without doing much of the math, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
And then even some of those guys now, I saw today again, Frank Clark was working afterwards with George Karlaftis, and another one of the defensive ends a little farther down the depth chart. Name escapes me at the moment. But like you have some of those guys who were around for the Super Bowl now stepping into even more of a mentorship type of role. Obviously, Frank Clark has a lot to play for himself. Travis Kelce is not focusing on the teaching and ignoring his own job. But there's another energy that even comes with that. We're like, hey, let me teach you something that I can impart on you that's going to make this team better in January. It really changes the energy even for the guys who were there through the Super Bowl, through the run it back. This defense is going to heavily rely on at least, 4 rookies? 3 for sure. It seems like 4 probably with Joshua Williams. There is energy there. It might be a nervous energy or an anxious energy, but there is a new energy there.
9 players. 9 players from the 2019 team that got reps are still on this team.
Do you want to play the game? Beard's going to hate if we try to play the game. I want to try to play the game.
Beard's going to say 5 hours.
Mahomes, Kelce, Austin Ryder.
Oh wow! I put this list together before Austin Ryder was on back on the team.
10.
Now 10. Damn you, Austin Ryder! It was better when it was single digits.
I just was so excited to get that one.
So there you go.
He's still out there, right? Frank Clark, Chris Jones. None of the linebackers. None of the corners. Juan Thornhill.
No. He didn't take a snap.
No, you're right. He was hurt. He got hurt at the end of the regular season.
Didn't take a snap.
Take a snap in it. Is the defense done? Is that everybody? Did I get everybody on? No. Derek Nottie.
Yep.
Tershawn Wharton.
Nope.
Didn't get a snap.
No, he wasn't on the team.
The year before him.
Yep.
Colin Saunders was probably inactive, I think, for the Super Bowl.
He played in the game.
He did play in the game.
Yep,
Gosh
Colin
darn
Saunders.
it. Okay, that's 7. Am I done with the defense?
You got 1 more on defense, and 2 more on offense.
It's probably was Mike Dana on that team?
Nope.
No, it was next year. I don't know who the other defender is. I'm blanking.
Rashad Fenton.
My apologies to Rashad Fenton.
And 2 on offense.
I cut the entire cornerback group, and I shouldn't have.
Yep, you did. Immediately, I was like, I'm not going to help you out. This
No.
is not sports or leisure. Everybody wins. This is you got to figure it out on your own.
Did Andrew Wiley take a snap?
Nope.
think he was on the roster but didn't take a snap. And McCole Hardman.
That's one.
And
one more.
Oh boy, who would be if the rest? The offensive line is done.
I will tell you, he caught a pass in the playoffs, or caught a touchdown in the playoffs.
Blake Bell?
Blake Bell.
Look at that. All right, we got there.
Yep, there we go. There's the 10.
Didn't bat 1,000, but we got the list out.
There's the 10. All right.
I needed 14 guesses.
That's fine. 10. We eventually got it.
Because we got time, right? Want to do it? Can I try to do it again off the top of my head now? Mahomes, Kelsey, Fenton, Ryder.
One other thing he mentioned, and we'll take a time out and talk about it, and get into a little bit more with Matt Derrick. Asked about Tyreek Hill, and he said what has been a big question, and people have been wondering about what it's going to look like. And he said, when you got him, sometimes you say, forget the read and let me take a chance. But now there's more on the progression. You go through the reads, you find the guy that's open, which is what we had wondered of the, he always said, well, I just throw to the open guy. Well, yeah, you throw to the open guy, but sometimes it's Tyreek open and not actually open. Whereas now it might be more, I'm throwing to the open guy, which is the actual progression and the person that I'm supposed to go to as I'm going through my reads. And I don't want to be a one-read quarterback anymore.
I think the way you interpreted that is the right way to interpret it. If that quote becomes a thing, I'm going to lose my mind by Monday. If that's a thing over the weekend, because going to Tyreek Hill and saying forget the read is a product of Tyreek Hill and that being successful. Not Patrick Mahomes not going through his reads and getting bored and just throwing the ball to 10. That narrative I can't do. I think the way you have framed it is the way that it should be framed.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes' life got a little harder when Tyreek Hill left. He's also going to be up for that challenge.
Yep. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back right up this hour next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was going to tell you when you came in here that there's going to be a time when I'm going to be at your house while you're asleep.
On Sports Radio 810.
You know what makes that even creepier is that was to Allie Trost Martin.
Why did you threaten to go to her house?
Because it's a tie-in to the other guys.
Is it really?
Yes. She had talked about how Tom was a big fan of the other guys, and I said, there's going to come a time when I'm going to be at your house while you're asleep, and Tom and I are going to be hanging out, eating popcorn, watching the other guys together.
Got it.
But why would you include the context when it's fun just to make it out to be really creepy?
I just would argue that that's almost like Beard's taking a layup. Like, oh, I made Jason sound creepy. The degree
That one wasn't me.
That was he was grandfathered in. That was Corey, really. That was a Corey. That was Corey clipping that one. If you play a little bit longer when I say that I'm at your house when you're asleep, she goes, "Oh God."
I would start praying also.
Let me finish. Don't worry. It's me and Tom hanging out. Matt. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Beards. We continue rolling along. Heading up until 2 o'clock. An hour from now, we'll talk with Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We heard in the previous hour from Andy Reid and Clark Hunt and Patrick Mahomes and Ronald Jones as well. So if you missed any of those press conferences, they will be on the podcast. Right now, talking with our man from Chiefs Digest, 810WHB.com. It is Matt Derrick joining us here in the zone. Matt, what is up, man?
I am just enjoying life in an empty Starbucks in St. Joe. So
how about that? An empty Starbucks in
it's not
St.
an
Joe.
open. It's not an open Starbucks. It's just an empty Starbucks.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So are you in the parking lot, or you broke into the Starbucks that's not open?
It's the Starbucks in the student union. So, but there's no students here.
Oh, yeah,
so
I see.
Starbucks isn't open.
There we go.
But
Okay.
I was just looking for a place that's out of the way, out of earshot. It's not going
Nice.
to bother anybody.
Cool.
And
Well, if we
here
hear
we
any grinding in the background, it's Matt making himself a coffee while he's talking with us.
if you're lucky, that's exactly what it'll be.
That's exactly right. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. All right, so I want to start with the Carlos Dunlap news first before we get into some observations and some things that you've taken away from practice over these few days. Carlos Dunlap signed by the Chiefs, 1 year up to $8 million. We know he's not there at camp today, excused practice with the funeral of his father. So he'll be with the team eventually, sometime soon. What was your reaction to hearing the news yesterday that Carlos Dunlap is now a Kansas City Chief?
I think it makes sense. I mean, we've been talking all along that they needed another veteran edge rusher, and it doesn't. At this point, you're not going to get necessarily a star. You're not going to be getting anybody that, 27 years old and going to be able to come in and give you 18 sacks a year. That's not what this is. You're going to get. I think Carlos Dunlap is a pretty good solution. He's a guy who I think probably has a decent floor because he's always had a decent floor. Yeah, he's 33. At some point, sure, things are going to start to decline. But I think it's encouraging that he had a really good year last year in limited work. Yeah, certainly that's a sign that he doesn't need a big workload. But if you're looking for a guy that's going to play 35, 40% of the snaps and will bring it to every single one of those 35, 40% snaps, Carlos is probably your guy. So I think it's a reasonable signing. It just tells me that, hey, Robert Quinn was probably never quite in the budget, either draft pick wise or cap wise and dollar wise. Hey, Dan Dunlap is a little bit more affordable. There were some other options. I don't remember, when we were talking about it, you probably brought up Dan Dunlap. He wasn't necessarily at the top of my list, but he would have been one of the guys to consider.
I'm sorry, who did you say there?
I said, I don't know if you brought up Dunlap before.
We talked about Dunlap, yeah. No, I definitely brought him up, Matt, okay? Yeah. Credit where credit is due, damn it.
I'm giving you credit.
I'm just joking.
Hey, like I said, there were other guys ahead of him on my list.
Right, yeah.
He's still on the list, so I think it's a good signing.
One of the other guys I brought up, too, was Olivier Vernon, who knows if – he's not on a team, but he didn't play last year and the injury and stuff, so who knows. That was just a throw a dart and see if you can get him, off of injury and maybe cheap and he can, get close to what he was before the Achilles. But I would have rather had Carlos Dunlap. And Robert Quinn is out there, too. It's something that we talked a lot about Robert Quinn, right? What the draft pick would be, what the compensation would be, and the years left and all of that stuff. So did it make sense, with the draft picks and with the cap? Obviously not. And so they go with Carlos Dunlap. What do you mentioned 35 to 40% of the snaps, and he's been consistent. The floor is pretty good for him, and he makes the Chiefs overall better. The team got better by signing Carlos Dunlap yesterday. What do you expect his role on this team to be, if you're guessing right now, without actually having seen him in practice yet?
Yeah, and that is hard to say. We're not going to see him until Wednesday. It'll probably be at least another week or so before he's up to full speed. But I would expect now that you've got 4 rotational pieces that you feel pretty good about. You got Frank Clark, you got Mike Dana, you've got George Karlaftis, obviously, who I think is just going to be taking on an increasingly larger role as this goes along. But this gives you another guy. And like we have been talking about, this can't be a team that has been the last few years where Frank Clark is, pulling 70 to 80% of the snaps. That's not where he's at in his career, body-wise and everything. He is going to be a much more effective player, just like Dunlap was. You look at his productivity last year versus just snaps played, it went up dramatically when he played less. And, miracle of miracles, that's what happens when you're 32 and 33 years old, or you're going to be close to 30 like a Frank Clark. I mean, and especially with Frank, I think maybe with the mileage, because he's played pretty hard and had some injuries too. You just have to be smarter about it. So I think it gives them, 4 rotational pieces that they're happy with. I think they go a little bit deeper now, obviously. It certainly helps also from just an experience and leadership standpoint. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo wasn't blowing smoke yesterday, and Chris Jones, when they talked about just how young this defensive front is. Outside of really, Mike Dana and Chris Jones, Mike Dana and Frank Clark, who've been lining up as the ends. After that, the defensive ends on this roster have combined for 2.5 sacks in their careers and 1 start. So, this is a great veteran piece. Is going to be a great, I think, mentor, another leadership piece to have around George Karlaftis.
Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, a10WHB.com. The rotational pieces, I think that's the key, and one of the things that we'll see as it eventually works itself out throughout the season. The fewer reps that he had last year and was still able to have that production with the Seahawks. So going through his snap percentage throughout his career, starting from his rookie year to last year, this is the percentage of snaps he played that year: 62, 87, 84, 81, 77, 76, 74, 81, 58, 38. So it's dropped dramatically from 2019 to 2021, from 81% to 38%. Is that roughly what you think the Chiefs are looking to get from Carlos Dunlap? Is 35, 40%? Maybe a little bit more, depending on that, because when he's with the Bengals or even with the Seahawks, when you're talking about pass rushing situations, in theory, the Chiefs offensively should then give the defense more pass rushing snaps because they should be leading. So that should afford them more opportunities to then rush the passer. Maybe that percentage goes up. But do you think it's going to be more of a predominant Frank Clark, Michael Dana, Karlaftis, rundowns, set the edge, passing downs? Okay, here comes Carlos Dunlap in the game, and it'll be somewhere 35 to 40% of the snaps when the season is over?
Well, and that's going to be one of the harder things to project, too, because remember, these decisions, especially when it comes to rotations and who's on the field and packages and sub-packages, it's not entirely Steve Spagnuolo. It's also going to be the defensive line coach. And, and Brendan Daly's philosophy in the past was a lot of times more about, giving guys drives off rather than specific plays.
Right.
And certainly, hey, there was a third down package, absolutely. But usually it would be, hey, Chris Jones is going to get a drive off or Frank Clark will get a drive off. It won't be just, first or second downs, period, and, that kind of thing, always. But with Joe Cullen, they might be a different look. I mean, that might be a different philosophy. And I'm also curious just about, specifically with some of the sub-packages, what we see, when they have some maybe three-man fronts, is it going to be what we've seen usually in the past, which was a lot of, 2 D ends and a D tackle? Or is it going to be, 2 D tackles and a guy like Leo Chanel crashes down and maybe a fourth guy on the line? I think they have more options this year to do some different things. So straight rotations, I think it's an open book. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that they can do at this point. And I'm kind of curious to see, especially once the pads come on next week and we get into the preseason, what some of those rotations look like. And I think it's hard to predict right now.
I saw a tweet earlier today. I don't remember who it was from, and I apologize if I find it while we're talking. I'll give credit where credit is due. But it was an observation they had, and that was apparently Joe Cullen was getting after Karlaftis a number of times today in practice.
I believe that because Joe Cullen, seems like kind of a hard edge kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think he seems like an old school football coach.
Apparently, the tweet observation was that Karlaftis was the receiving end of Cullen not being happy about a few things.
That's how you sharpen the edge. You gotta hammer away at it to make that edge sharp.
I'm gonna guess by the reputation of said player that he then took the criticism that would be there and took it to heart and tried to get better from it. I'm gonna guess that's Karlaftis' attitude. And Cullen won't have any problem addressing him like that if that's sort of his personality.
See, if he was like doing like a taco drill or something and tackling a big round donut and everything, and it says that the Karloftis, I assume that the donut is now embedded in some drywall somewhere.
That's probably right. Yes, the guy's motor doesn't stop, so that might, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's you just get on him, and now it's like the guy's already got a great motor, but now he's got a great motor and is pissed. Maybe he's trying to find the buttons to push. You got to understand each and every player and what makes them tick. And maybe Karloftis is a guy that's like, you know what, bleep you. I've already got a high mower, and now I'm mad. I don't know. Who knows? It might be like, white men can't jump. Hey, you play better when you're pissed off.
And this is a good lesson just for anybody who is coming up to training camp. A great place to sit and listen is absolutely that corner. When you first walk into the stadium and there's the stands on both sides and everything, because D-line does most of its work down there, and D-line coaches are the best when it comes to getting up in these guys' business. And the stuff you hear and the action you see, that is some beautiful work being done down there.
Depends on the age group you're with, though.
True. No, it needs to be. Yeah, I mean,
you and some buddies sit there. You and your kids. Head somewhere else. Maybe go to the hill in front of the media where you don't hear as much, but you can still see everything.
I wouldn't stand too close to the media, honestly, either, if you've got little kids. I mean, who knows?
No, but they're up at the top of the hill. So, if you're sitting down near the bottom of the hill, you can still see both fields. But then when they're working off on their own, that's where the quarterbacks go. So you could see Mahomes and Shane Bichelle get their work in there, so you could see that as well, and you're away from some of the commentary. But if it's you and some buddies, oh yeah, you are right about that, Matt. That's where the action is. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, You might have some awkward questions on the ride home with your 6-year-old.
You know what?
But
it's fine. I've already gone through that with him the first half of the Houston Texans game in the divisional round, and then when the game is over, sort of the teaching lesson that what he heard in the first half are things that we don't say. Second half of the game is how we should act as people watching just a sporting event that doesn't even matter in our lives, buddy. Okay, win or lose, it's just a game. We just have it for entertainment. But again, the words Daddy said in the first half, we do not repeat. So.
And you won't hear anything that you probably won't hear in the upper deck at Arrowhead either.
That's a good point, too. Fair. Yes, that is very fair. Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, 810WHB.com. So with Dunlap now in the fold, and we know the pieces that are there. One of the things that I've been trying to pick people's brain on as we head into training camp and this season, and we know what the Chiefs have done in the offseason. That is address the secondary, draft Karloftis as, in the first round, but not really spending resources on that defensive line. Jaron Reed walks, and now they, have Dunlap coming in. So Spagnuolo's blitz percentage went down a pretty decent mark last year. The pressure percentage has gone up the years that Spagnuolo has been the defensive coordinator. The sacks have continued to go the opposite way, and they've gone from first in the NFL to 11th to 20th and then to 32nd in sacks in the NFL, or 29th, whatever it was. Why do you have a theory on that as to why the pressure percentage was 5th in the NFL last year and has gone from like 20-something to 5th, and the sacks are just not there anymore?
It's curious. I mean, because normally those two items there'd be some correlation to them. And it was certainly, a puzzle to the Chiefs last year about why that their pressures were so good, that they felt like that they were getting in the neighborhood and their pressure percentages were going up and they just weren't finishing. You could say, hey, maybe it's just that they were getting bad luck. I mean, that's the most optimistic way to look at it, is to say that, hey, in a lot of seasons, some of those pressures are going to turn into sacks, and it just takes a couple of them and things really turn around and are a little bit different. Maybe situations are a part of it too. I mean, once again, you would think that the Chiefs would have been in a lot of passing situations where those numbers would have gone up. Because, sacks are going to be a result of pure numbers of passes that you faced. And obviously teams throw the ball a lot against the Chiefs, so you'd expect that if you have a high rate of pressures, you'd think you'd have a high rate of sacks, but it hasn't been there. On the other extreme, you want to look at it is just say, you know what, the Chiefs haven't had closers, or at least healthy closers. I think Chris Jones is a closer when it comes to getting sacks, but I don't think that there was any real moment outside of maybe week 1 or 2 last year where he was anywhere close to 100% healthy. That wrist was absolutely affecting him the entire season, and probably the hamstring too at times. Maybe that was the impact about, that Chris Jones is still one of the most effective pass rushers in the league, but if he's doing it with one arm and one leg, closing is going to be a problem. Frank Clark has had a closing problem. So maybe, having a few more closers, and maybe Karlaftis is one of those guys. We know Dunlap has been one of those guys. Maybe that's going to be enough of a threshold to kind of get it over, but it's got to change. I mean, you're right. I mean, if you're getting that kind of pressure, it needs to result in more sacks, because sacks lead to turnovers, and that's what this team also needs.
And the playoffs, I mean, was a great indication of that, too. I mean, in the AFC Championship game, they got more pressures on Joe Burrow than Tennessee did, but 6 fewer sacks. I mean, that just does not make sense. And we can think back, and there are probably 2 or 3 that stand out like flashing red lights of when it was like, how did you not get him down? And could be the difference in the game ultimately. Obviously, the third down one that we remember with Chris Jones that had him and then chased after him and dove and didn't get there, and then he picks up the first down, and they score on that drive eventually, do the Bengals. You sack them there, they're punting, there's no points on the board. Things could have been different. But how do you get more pressures than Tennessee the week before and 6 fewer sacks? It's hard to do.
And it's interesting you bring it up, because I was thinking about that too with the Chris Jones and that third down where he had Joe Burrow. I mean, he had him in his arms and just didn't get him down. And I still can't explain how Burrow got out of that, other than that Joe Burrow is a really good player and a really good quarterback. But, I don't think that gets talked about a lot. I mean, sure, maybe it does, with some fans saying, hey, it was just one play away from a 4th AFC championship or 4th Super Bowl if you have that play and D Ford. But I don't, and I certainly haven't heard people talk about as much about the Chris Jones missed sack as the D Ford, and I certainly don't think that they should, because I don't think that was a lack of effort on Chris Jones' part. But I tell you what, seeing Chris Jones, whenever he talks about it, that has eaten him up. I mean, that has really bothered him, and I think that's a sign of a true competitor and somebody who really cares about it. Is that I think he took that play absolutely harder than anybody else, any of his teammates, any of the fans. It just seems like whenever he brings it up or it's talked about and everything, that you can just see it in his eyes and his body language. That play really has stuck with him, and I think it's a motivator for him this year.
I got to look in the break because, you talk about sometimes sacks, there's some luck to it, and that'd be the most optimistic way of looking at it, then maybe there's just some bad luck. That play specifically, I got to look up to what it was, because I do think there was an element, and I know Chris Jones had him and could have engulfed him and took him down, but I'm going to look at it in the break. But after Chris Jones got there, I think there's an element of like a player in a certain spot or a Chiefs player that somehow, Burrow had, took a step one way and then the other way. And if this guy had not been there, then Jones gets him. I'll look it up in the break to get an exact memory of that, because I do think there was some luck that went against them on that particular play. But you know what? That happens. They had other opportunities. It wasn't only one play, right? And it doesn't mean that they wouldn't have won the game. Or they would have won the game if they get the sack there. Things could have been different. Who knows? Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, is our guest. To go along with that, the blitzing, the pressure, the sacks, and things like that. To go along with the too deep coverage as well, because blitzing across the NFL is down, and it has continually, steadily headed in the direction of having fewer and fewer blitzes. The blitz percentage has gone down. If you look at the overall league, the median, the top team in the league, what their percentage was, the bottom team, things like that. And so 35 to 28% last year for the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo. I don't think it's a leopard will change its spots, because I don't think you'll ever see Steve Spagnuolo be a guy like, we're just going to stop blitzing. That's never going to happen for him. And he wants to put pressure on the quarterback. What I wonder, though, Matt, is if there's a correlation between, okay, the Chiefs may be getting pressure, but quarterbacks are getting the ball out of their hands quicker than they have before. And with two deep safeties, then it almost incentivizes the offense to throw underneath. So 3 and 5 step drops, and not those deep 7-step drops we've seen in the past and things like that. So if that's the case, and if there's sort of a renewed view of how offenses are going and how you then counter that, Is there a chance of the front office saying, well, that's why we're going to throw numbers at the secondary and the safety and the cornerbacks, and we can bring blitzes from different ways, but maybe not spend as much money on the defensive line, because even if we were to get there, these quarterbacks are getting the ball out quicker than they have in the past, and so coverage now becomes even more of a premium. Anything to that, or just a random odd football number that it dropped so much last year in blitz for Steve Spagnuolo?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at least as far as the resources go, that it is probably it's certainly a conscious decision, but there's also just a little bit of timing and luck that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that the Chiefs. I mean, because we had, a year ago we were having the same conversation the other way. I mean, the Chiefs, put all their money and their resources in the defensive line and never draft a cornerback or safeties and never do anything. And then of course now all of a sudden, they take a bunch of defensive backs.
Why do they always spend their money on the secondary and draft picks? Brett Veach just doesn't care about linebackers and defensive linemen.
But honestly, I mean, the plan this year would have been to put a lot of resources into defense, and it wasn't like for a lack of trying to sign and to acquire a defensive end and an edge rusher. That was part of the plan, and they didn't get it done this year. So now it's higher on the plan for next year. They're going to put some resources into that position, and it could be draft pick. I mean, obviously they put a draft pick into the line this year. But I expect them to put even more. I think that the bigger indication is that they're going for more speed across the board. Everybody that they drafted pretty much in that defense, everybody they've acquired is faster. And I think that's the tacit acknowledgement that in this league right now, with everybody for the most part, and we're going to see more teams playing two deep safeties this year than ever before, because it works. You look at the numbers, and quarterbacks just are not as good against two deep covers than they are against single high. I mean, it's going to happen. I right now, based on 3 days, I can't tell you that the Chiefs are going to be one of those two teams for sure. Maybe they will. Right now, they're working on everything, and they're installing everything. So it's really hard to say what they're going to be, and Steve Spagnuolo, so they're going to be a chameleon. They're going to change week to week based on what they're going up against. But do I expect that Steve Spagnuolo is all of a sudden going to be a two deep guy and throw everything out the window and never blitz again? No, I mean, Tigers don't change their stripes.
Yeah.
So he's going to, but he's trying. But I think they tried to get him some more speed when it comes to blitzers, because Leo Chanel is a linebacker, probably going to be the fastest blitzer I think you've seen from the Chiefs linebacker group since maybe at least DJ in his prime. I mean, that's going to be a guy who plays downhill fast, and he's going to be really intriguing off the blitz. I mean, and I think they've got some corners and safeties that can do it. I think Justin Reed wants to be that guy. I think Brian Cook will eventually definitely be one of those guys. I think they got, Snead can absolutely do it. So I think that they've tried to address that discrepancy a little bit with just picking up more speed, because you can't play, I don't think, Spags defense this lead day in the league without more speed, and they've got it now.
Yep. Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, 810WHB.com. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Let's look at the offensive side on the other side of the break. More Zone right after this. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
That's a clown take, bro.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, visiting with Matt Derrick. He's in St. Joe. We'll get some camp observations from him. But I did want to, get back into just a little bit. I had mentioned I couldn't remember what it was. Like there was an element of luck with the Joe Burrow missed sack on third down, because you had mentioned that, the most optimistic view of the pressure rate being there, but the sacks not being there would be, just some luck. So in rewatching the play, because I remember talking about it at the time, there were about 1,000 things that we discussed. But as Chris Jones gets there and gets to Joe Burrow, and obviously a very massive human being, Frank Clark has whipped the right tackle. He's going on an outside move, and he spins back inside, and the right tackle, or the left tackle, has just missed him. So Frank Clark on Joe Burrow's blind side has now spun around and is going to have a path to hit Burrow if Burrow steps up in the pocket, and if Chris Jones just simply goes over him and Burrow steps up, Frank Clark brings him down, okay? But instead, Chris Jones, as Burrow was stepping past him, grabs the left shoulder of Joe Burrow, and while grabbing the back of the jersey, Joe Burrow then is pulled a step back, which makes Frank Clark have to adjust. By that time, the right tackle who was chasing is able to hit Frank Clark, while then Joe Burrow is able to then escape to his left. If Chris Jones just simply whiffed and went over the top, Frank Clark brings Joe Burrow down from the blind side. But the luck that's there is that Jones grabs the left shoulder, and then Burrow is outside then of the range of Frank Clark, because the left tackle has now then caught up, and then not enough of the jersey to actually bring Joe Burrow down. It happens. It's football.
It happens.
It's football. It's not an excuse. Bring the guy down, frickin' sack him, But, if he holds on a little bit more, he sacks him. If he does not grab his left shoulder, Frank Clark sacks him. But there you go. They lost the game, and maybe it's motivation now moving forward. Doesn't mean they would have won the game. It was still tied 21-21 when that happened. They would have got the ball back, obviously, but still, who knows? Let's talk about camp observations from you, Matt. Things that you've seen maybe from the last few days. Any takeaways or views of just some observations that you've looked at?
Yeah, I'm ready for the pads to come on. I think everybody's ready for the pads to come on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Circle Monday. That's when we learn about.
No, that
things.
makes sense.
Because I once again, hey, as I tell everybody, I try not to allow guys in shorts catching passes to impress me. Because once the pads come on, things can change. But no, this offense, even with the new faces, it looks like they're on the same page. Mahomes has had some really sharp periods. You can't say there's been even some of the negative plays that you've read about. Interception here, or block pass, bad pass here. Wasn't like there was bad reads by Mahomes or bad throws or anything. It was just some guys made plays. Willie Gay made a couple of great plays today. A great read in zone coverage and on a 7-on-7 and makes an interception. They tipped a pass on another play where he just made a great athletic play. Those are two good things to see. Juju Smith-Schuster on the offensive side has looked really sharp. I think a lot of the wide receivers have looked pretty good, but Juju has been pretty impressive. His tracking skills, just his overall route running, his ability to get open, and certainly just his ability to get to the ball no matter what. There have been times that there was a great play the other day that made all the highlight reels that was probably should have been a smoother play, but he kind of got turned around a little bit, and the defender got turned around. But he makes a great adjustment, figures out and tracks the ball, and makes the catch. He's just that kind of a talent, and I have no idea. Like I said, we will wait to make our final predictions, because I've gone back and forth on this about who's going to be the leading receiver this season for the Chiefs. I was Team Juju before OTAs. I became Team MVS after OTAs. Now it's neck and neck. Juju has been really impressive.
I'll stay with Team Juju. We'll see, but he's looked impressive so far. One of the things that Patrick Mahomes said, and I'm going to talk about another wide receiver too that's been brought up a couple of times, but Juju being one of the newer guys, MVS, Sky Moore, we know that. Defensive guys, younger guys. Patrick Mahomes was asked today at the press conference about how the team gets off to good starts, and last year being the outlier. That this team does get off to good starts, and he said that look, they've done a great job of that, and then he said you can tell with the new energy with this group, and then started talking about practices and blah blah blah. The new energy stood out to me. Do you take anything away from hearing Patrick Mahomes talk about, and just as a passing comment about how they start off so well and what they're going to be ready to do come week one against a difficult schedule, when he says you can tell with the new energy with this team?
Yeah, I see which road I think you're going down there, Jay, and I think it's kind of invited, especially with some of the things we now know about maybe the old energy of this offense. I will take it as more from the more positive side to say.
I'm not being negative. I promise. No. I promise. I'm looking at it more. I'll just give you my thoughts real quick because I don't want you to go a route thinking that I was going to go a certain route. I'm just simply saying there was a feel maybe even from fans that it got kind of stale with the players overall, just kind of the same thing, same players, same thing, same players. Now with new looks, new players in there, an unknown, fresh faces, fresh blood, then maybe that's caused the sort of new energy that there may not be a feeling of being stale.
And, and I never really thought that things were necessarily felt stale or anything, but, I think there's something about it, and I go back to like a great, well, I don't know if it's a great example. It's probably a terrible, terrible example. But I like it. It's a story about my youth and the old days and everything. And, hey, I was in college. I was a college kid that had a job, and then you come back for holiday break, and you come back, and it was in retail. Brisco knows this. I worked at the Disney store when I was in college. Metro North Mall represents. And I remember my first year, I came back from holiday break, and it was like December 10th, and everybody else was completely burned out because it's the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
You're working terrible hours. It's crowded all the time. It's just everything's jammed. And I'm coming in having just gotten off finals. I haven't been around people or anything. I got 15 days till Christmas. All I have to come in here and do is just be a relief. And, and because I had a completely different attitude because I hadn't been around before. And so, you need that, and it does. I mean, I think it changes when, you have people who, haven't been around before, people who are trying to prove themselves, who come in. Maybe they have a different energy. They're trying to impress everybody. They're getting to know people. You could have new conversations at the lunchroom that you haven't had before. I think all that thing does kind of loosen things up a little bit. And certainly when you get the energy of rookies trying to prove themselves and newcomers trying to prove themselves, I think that does have a little bit different atmosphere. So I think it'll be, it'll be more calm, cool, and collected at some point. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But the energy right now, hey, it's probably good for when you're a guy like Patrick who's, entering year 6 and, hey, just looking for a little bit, somebody to come in and be an energy giver, Jason.
Yes. I didn't know if maybe you thought I was going the route of like, hey, Tyreek's gone, so everything's good, or Tyrann Mathieu. It was more like, I don't know, maybe it, being at camp so you would know, like, and that's why we love having you on is, when you're there every day at training camp, you would know like the different feel of the energy or not, and maybe it wasn't as, maybe it wasn't as stale at the time as looking back, maybe saying, well, they won the Super Bowl in 2019. They ran it back in 2020, so you had the same set of guys. Then 2021, it was kind of the same people, but where was the, obviously they wanted to get back to the Super Bowl, and they damn near did. They were a half away, or play here or there away from doing it, but maybe it just became repetitive, right? And maybe just any sort of fresh blood or new face can kind of, reinvigorate some players. So we'll see.
And maybe repetitive is a better word for it because, I think about the old group of receivers and everything, and I think about a group that was really, really tight and had a lot of fun playing together. I mean, you could see it on the field. I mean, because they were always celebrating with each other. I mean, they had fun making big plays. They get engaged with the fans and everything. And certainly you're seeing that. I mean, you saw Juju backpedal in the end zone yesterday.
Yeah, right.
When he makes a great catch and everything. But I think there's a lot more, I don't say professionalism is the wrong word, maybe more focus with this group this year because I think that they are trying to prove themselves. It's not a group that's been around for a while and knows, hey, I'm not getting cut. I know where my roster spot is. I know where my place on the depth chart is. This is a group that's wide open, and maybe there's just a little bit different concentration or focus in some areas because they know that it's an open competition.
Matt Derrick is our guest. One of the other things that Patrick Mahomes said, and it's interesting, I heard it and I talked about it, and I didn't even think of it from the it can be taken and ran with people making it seem like it's a bad thing for Patrick Mahomes. Brisco had brought it up. I'm like, I can see where that would be viewed that way. So his quote when he says that, when you have sometimes, or when you have him being Tyreek. So when you have Tyreek, sometimes you say, forget the read, let me take a chance. And then he goes in, but now, more progressions, going through the reads, things like that. And I viewed it as like, it's kind of something you and I have talked about, that it makes sense because, well, this guy might be open, but that's Tyreek open. And maybe you say, well, was that the right read? Well, it's Tyreek open, and I'm going to throw the ball to Tyreek Hill. It makes sense. It's natural. And I would be upset if a quarterback was like, yeah, Tyreek only has a step on him, but Demarcus Robinson has 2 steps over there for 5 yards. I'm going to throw it to Demarcus Robinson instead of Tyreek, who's got a step on his, cornerback. He's not. No, that's Tyreek open. So I'm going to throw him the ball. That totally makes sense. And I think there's probably a hyper focus for Patrick Mahomes, who continues to hear about no Tyreek Hill and what happens and just throwing the ball up there. And it's better to have an accurate quarterback rather than you have to run around and try to find the ball in the air, like, Tyreek's host said on the podcast. And then, the one read quarterback for Patrick Mahomes. I didn't even look at it as a way that could then be taken and run with as a negative for Patrick Mahomes. As I see, he just throws it to Tyreek Hill. He doesn't even focus on his reads. I viewed it more as it makes sense to do that. Now that he doesn't have that, you get back into these are the progressions. These are the actual open receivers. Now Mahomes just simply, who's been a good decision maker, throw the ball on time accurately, and let's see what the offense can do.
Yeah, and once again, to me, it goes back to confidence and what your confidence level is and the players around you and who you're going to go to. There was no doubt that Patrick Mahomes had a high degree of confidence in Tyreek Hill. He has a high degree of confidence in Travis Kelce. And I think you saw that when things were tough, and sometimes even when things were not necessarily that tough, but anytime the chips were down, where's the ball going? Anytime that Mahomes felt like maybe he didn't have his A game that day, maybe he was a little off or he just wasn't feeling it, the ball was going to Tyreek or Kelce. And that, especially, it seemed like the last couple of years, later and later in the season, that's where the ball went. And the reason, and they justified it most of the time. But and this is not a knock against Mahomes. It is just a little bit of his personality and on the field and his philosophy and what he wants to do. But let's face it. He wants to throw the football, and he has readily admitted that. Hey, there have been times, in the RPO game especially. Hey, I should be giving the ball away. I should be running the football with guys, but instead, the instinct is to throw the football. So if it's a 50-50 call between a run or a pass, he's going to pass it.
Yeah.
If it's a 60-40 call between, whether he should pass or run, he's probably still going to pass it. It's just and I know that's part of his equation this year is to try and change that a little bit. That, to have more of a focus, to give, other guys a chance. And when you've got so many new guys around you, you have to.
Yeah.
He is going to have more trust in the guys around him this year and just, have faith. And once faith is given, you're just hoping it's justified. And I think they put around with enough players, and I think that's probably going to be the case. I think he's got players around him that if he does not have trust in them yet, the belief is that, hey, if he just takes the leap and gives them the ball, good things are going to happen. And I think they've put themselves in position to do that.
Well, and I think this is, the first time really that he can look at it and say maybe some decisions like, actually cost them a trophy. Winning the Lamar Hunt trophy by some decisions in the second half. No decision was going to make up for the Bucs game, with what happened there. Wasn't a decision or two. But certainly the second half of the Bengals, you can say throw here or throw there. And he talked about it this offseason and said, that there were plenty of times he could have handed off in the RPOs against the Bengals, talking about that game, but wanting to make a play. And I think that's all progression. It's part of, learning and becoming a more mature player. But it is the first time that he can look back and say, okay, I should have done this or that, and we would have won and gone to the Super Bowl, but I didn't, and now it may be my fault because I didn't do this or that, and I wanted to pass it too much instead of maybe just relying on my reads. I don't know. Who knows? I know this. If it's 51-49, the read is to run the ball over pass it, I want him to throw the ball, okay? So I want it to be an obvious run read for him to hand the ball off. Other than that, let Pat play. That was my hashtag last year, was let Pat play. And even as the let Pat play hashtag guy, even I was saying in the second half, hand the freaking ball off. Run the ball, man. They're dropping 8. But you live, you learn, and hopefully, they are all better for it, and it helps them out this year when it's a really difficult run to get to the Super Bowl because of how good the AFC is.
And to me, I mean, this isn't, even a question about quarterback skill or anything like that. It's just a matter of the chess game. I mean, it's the adjustments that teams make. I mean, let's face it, the teams are going to do everything that they can to make life as difficult and miserable for Patrick Mahomes as they possibly can. They're going to try and confuse him. They're going to try and do things he hasn't seen before. They're going to challenge his receivers. They're going to dare him to run the football. I mean, they're going to do everything that they can and they're going to put more effort against him than any other quarterback in the league. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Guy's got a target on his back. He can be the best quarterback he could possibly be, but he's going to be getting everybody's A game that week. And that means that, you've kind of got to change the way you play chess. You've got to have a different strategy as well. So to me, it's like I said, it's not a question or challenging Mahomes' skill. Mm-hmm. It's just, challenging the way that you think about the game and how you attack it, because that's what other teams are doing to you.
Matt Derrick hanging out in St. Joe. We'll take a time out, one more segment with him. We'll talk Sky Moore with Matt Derrick, a name that's come up the last couple of days and a name that's come up unprompted by a couple of receivers in a specific role. So we'll talk with Matt Derrick about that, what he has seen from the rookie Sky Moore there in training camp so far. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Bonjour, Laurent. That's about the best my French accent can do.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Matt Derrick is our guest. We'll wrap up this hour. We'll talk with Mick Shaffer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. We got cuts before the show is over. We got a lot of cuts. So I do want to give a little more time to get to cuts today. Try to do that. All right, let's talk some Sky Moore. Matt Derrick. Are his legs literal tree trunks that he's walking around in, or are they legs? Can you report and clarify if they are legs or if there is bark that falls off of them as he runs?
They do appear to be actual legs,
okay,
but they don't look like normal human legs. I mean, I'm 6'4" and pounds. And my legs are big, but he's much smaller than I am, and his I think legs are bigger and all muscle, whereas mine are mostly not.
Yeah, well, I'm in agreement with you on, or not in agreement with you, but I am in the same boat as you as not having the muscular legs. Mine is just actually a bone wrapped in skin. It's a skin wrapped bone are my legs. So
Matt, even at 6'4" and whatever, would Trey Smith pulling on a screen fully be able to like hit you so far into the ground that you would be 100% covered by dirt at the end? Because that's my theory.
I mean, if Trey Smith, hit me on just coming around like on a pole, I would be, the trees that surround the practice field.
Yeah.
I'd be on the other side of those. I'd probably roll across the interstate a couple of times.
Yeah, I would just run the other way as he's coming across to hit me. I would just run and try to beat him out of bounds. That's what I would do. But Sky Moore has been a guy that has turned some heads, and there have been some clips of him and some routes that he's had and getting off the line of scrimmage, things that he was good at in college as well. But, Matt, Wednesday and Thursday, unprompted by two different people, Juju Smith-Schuster and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, both brought up Sky Moore in the backfield. Do you take that at face value of like, well, that might be something there? Do you read into it anymore, or is it just a passing comment to guys talking about, Sky Moore can break tackles and, carry the ball in the backfield, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire saying, look, this offense is so versatile that I can line up as a wide receiver, McCole can get the ball, 24 can line up in the backfield, and just simply throwing a lot of stuff out there? Or is there something more in that back-to-back days they've been mentioning Sky Moore?
Something more?
Woo! Is there something more to it? Will he have more roles?
It's extremely well played, and I definitely want more roles. But I don't think that you just say that off the top of your head unprompted. Just think, hey, yeah, you know what? That'd be a good idea. I think it's because you've seen it.
Right.
That it's probably come in the front of mind. And I've been thinking the same thing. I mean, watching this guy in the field, we talk about it a lot, and it gets said every year, and usually it becomes sort of camp narrative about somebody. Last year it was kind of Jerick McKinnon, hey, get the guy ball in space, and things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Sky Moore seems like that guy. I mean, you get the ball to him in some space, and things are going to happen. And whether it's screens, whether it's I can absolutely see some of those, running back plays and out of the backfield plays that Tyreek ran early in his career being great for Sky because he's got, I think, the size and the strength to kind of do it, the speed, the agility, the quick first step to hit the hole and move. People aren't going to be expecting it. The first few times he does it, it's going to be like Top Gun. I mean, where'd he go? Where'd who go? I see a lot of potential there. And so any way you can get Sky Moore his hands in the ball in his hands, I think they're going to try and do it because it looks like things happen when he does.
And just to clarify, because I know that, what happened a year ago and then Deebo Samuel and the contract and stuff like that, it's a long way from you might see 24 in the backfield to, hold on, are they going to use Sky Moore like Deebo Samuel? That's a long, long way. I think what you're talking about, he may, like, Tyreek carried the ball out of the backfield a couple of times, last year. But it's like to try to show as many different looks out there. Sky Moore all of a sudden goes in motion and is in the backfield. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes in motion and is a wide receiver. And now you've got a linebacker that's supposed to take the running back out of the backfield but is actually Sky Moore. Like things like that. It doesn't mean it's Deebo Samuel.
I mean, and I could be crazy. Maybe I'm just remembering things differently. But didn't Tyreek, like rookie year, run the ball like 20 some odd times?
He had like 24 carries, I think, his rookie
Yeah,
year.
I think it was like 24. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, and it makes less sense to do it going forward because the guy was, your top receiver, and you want to protect him a little bit, and so I understand that. But I mean, at this point, it's all about getting Sky on the field, and like I have said, getting on the field as a receiver for Andy Reid as a rookie is hard to do because there are so many things you have to learn. And if one of the things you just have to learn is to take the ball and run, that's one way you get you on the field that's a little bit easier. I mean, he doesn't have to know the entire running back playbook. I mean, there's just a few things that he needs to pick up. And if he's got the speed and the athleticism to do it and the size and the durability, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, the more reps, the sky's the limit, man.
I was going to butt in and
still
try
want
to
more roles.
I was going to try to get Beards to give me time to ask one more question so I could ask if this could all be a part of getting Sky more on the field and as a rookie because it'd be difficult and to do in an Andy Reid offense, and then you explained all that anyway. So good to talk to you, Matt.
Good job, Matt.
What I do, but next time I want roles.
I can't have rolls.
It's a great line, man. It's a great line.
Rolls are all yours.
Matt, you are the man. Appreciate it. Enjoy the practices, and Monday right around the corner there'll be some pads, but enjoy reading the observations and things like that you are giving us from training camp. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Always a blast. Take care, everybody.
Absolutely. There's Matt Derrick. Great stuff from him. Tweets and Chiefs Digest and just all the camp observations. But 24. I mean, 24 could line up in the backfield. Well, 24 could run the football and break some tackles, too. Okay, maybe 24.
Kansas City.
All right, we continue hanging out here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Friday, last hour of the show of the week. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. He is presented each and every time he's on the show by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break and single task tonight with the Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. Do we want to give away some tickets before you get into this, Josh?
You should absolutely do that first.
Okay, so the 100-year celebration is coming up. What's that, Mick?
I had a golden ale last night watching The Old Man on Hulu when I got home.
Okay.
So it was nice.
That's single tasking.
It was a nice night.
I think if
Very
you
good for you.
watch something
Thanks,
and focus on the golden ale, that still qualifies as single tasking.
Yeah.
Too much multitasking.
Well, drinking a beer isn't a task.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
It's a
exactly
natural
right.
movement.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So the 100-year celebration for WHB is coming up August 11th, and we've been giving away tickets to that. A great night. It's going to be an awesome night celebrating sports and entertainment and broadcasting with all these different guests that we'll have there and attendees and local celebrities, some national as well. Nigro Brothers will be there with a live auction to end the night. Stephen St. John and Dustin Colquitt will be hosts for the evening. We're raising money for awesome charities, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Victory Project, ALS Association of Kansas City, Sharewaves. The on-air hosts in some capacity will be involved there as well. And again, all these other different celebrities and sports and entertainment and broadcasting will be there too. We've been giving away tickets. You can't buy tickets unless you have a particular corporate or a package that then goes and raises money for these charities. If you want to do that, it's 913-344-1529. But we've been giving away tickets, and we'll do that right now. We'll give away tickets in honor of Mick Shaffer, caller 41.
Good.
We'll give away caller 41.
Good.
And Beards,
Keep calling.
And Beards will go, congratulations, caller 41,
Yes.
to the very first person that calls in.
41 might be a stretch.
Figure it out, Beards. Just count. Just count
I want
quickly.
an actual count. I want to.
Yeah. We want names of all the callers, 1 through 40.
I want a log.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out it's just Phillip Rivers kids. So you just go through and name the kids of Phillip Rivers. You can get to 41.
People want to be at this thing, man. People can also hang up and call back if you say, "Oh, you're caller number 29." Like they can call back in again. So I think you just got to really run the board on this one, man. This is what you lift all those weights for, Beards.
This is what I want, Beards.
We're going to have
all I've
5
asked
guys call in 8 times, and then a rando will call in the 41st time.
Boom. That's how you get your tickets.
There
Be
you
the
go.
rando.
You know what Beards is going to do? He's going to unex the phone lines. The first 5 are going to call in because the phone lines are going to, and he's going to X the calls. That's going to eliminate them, and he's going to count that as 5.
That's
and then
fine.
keep doing that 10 and 15 and 20 and 25 and 30 and 35. Then he's going to answer the phone.
You know your 5s.
Jason loves counting, I've realized.
What's
41.
that?
But in all seriousness, what number are we doing?
41.
Just
What's wrong with 41?
4 plus 1 is 5.
Cool. Okay.
Let's do 8. Caller number 8, 913-3810810 is the phone number.
What's your favorite number, Nick?
913-3810810.
13.
Make it caller number 13.
13. Caller to 13.
Caller number 13.
All right, he
Dang
gave 2
it, I
thumbs
should have
up.
said 113. I mean 113. That was my number in basketball.
Yeah.
Caller 13, Salvi, in honor of Salvi, who may or may not return today or tomorrow, who knows, but sometime this weekend in New York, because they do have a locker in the clubhouse there in Yankee Stadium for
And
Salvador
he's in
Perez.
Syracuse.
He's in
Oh,
Syracuse.
that's true. It's a short
He
jaunt.
was, at least. I don't know if they're still there.
Yeah, they are.
Last
They
night,
played
at least.
yesterday.
Yeah.
He had 2 at-bats and then came out of the game. So, and he's got a locker in the clubhouse.
Hug
so.
watch.
Yeah,
Gotta be
that's
tough
right.
for
That's
Omaha.
right. So there you go. That is the 100-year celebration and a couple of tickets we're going to be giving away there to caller number 13. We'll get the cuts in before the show is over. We got what's on tap as well. We got all of that still to come. Josh, you have been wanting to get something off of your chest, and you wanted to wait till Mick Shaffer got here.
Yeah, because I mean, there are. Would you want to swap? Here's the thing.
I don't think.
They're like the same color.
Mick and I basically are in the same color palette today.
Okay.
And we get sort of, I would say, passing reviews on the show pretty much anywhere you look. Twitter and all the video streams now where you can see Mick's shirt if you want to just present to the camera. The Twitch, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter.
Yeah, no, it's Beards. Does Beards change? Is he directing the show as well?
Nobody is more committed to single tasking than Beards McFly. So you might not be in the frame right now. Might still be on
Sometimes
Jason.
he'll be doing less than a single task.
He just loves that Kona.
No task whatsoever. It's just no task.
But so there are lots of different ways you
A
can get in
zero
touch with the
task.
show. There's lots of different ways you can provide your feedback and all of that.
Okay.
We're very open to communication. This one did not
That's
come
right.
from a stream, though. I'll tell you the source in a minute.
Okay.
But I think Mick will be able to guess where it's from by the end. J.A., that's you, has a very pleasant voice and a great smile.
Yes.
You are a good team. Both handsome and talented. That's us again, Jason. And Mick will be on later today. Wow, a Friday trifecta.
Oh, that's your mom.
Party emoji, winking emoji, heart around the faces emoji. It's from my
Michelle.
mom.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mick Shaffer super fan, apparently a budding Jason Anderson super fan. Just flash those pearly whites, that great smile
Well,
that my mom's so entranced by.
Beards has to change the. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I got it switched over.
I bet the framing on that is
Just like
beautiful.
it's just like the Full House video that we did.
Is that us?
Yeah, that's exactly
us right there.
It's just like is the framing on me again, Beards. Okay, so it's just like the Full House video that we did.
That right there, that damn smile.
I thought I had two takes. I thought you were going to take the one where I spilled the water, or did the spit take.
Yeah.
I left it up to Paige with her artistic.
Sure, yeah.
Discretion.
Discretion.
at that
Thank
point.
you. That's the
Paige
word
and
I'm
I did
looking
have
for.
a brief conversation about the TV guy sending several of his videos vertical instead of horizontal. I think that might have been the thing that knocked out your spit take.
No. I had two takes for each one vertical, one horizontal. I didn't know if you're going to be normal or be monsters and have it all vertical because I didn't know what level of production this was.
Sure.
I learned later it's a high level, so I
That's
appreciated
the Paige
that.
part.
Yes.
That's where Paige did it.
Yes, very, very high level from Paige. And I also appreciated that, we took all these different takes and different scenes that we shot and then left it up to her artistic discretion. And I love the way that it ended with the scene in in one of the the editing studios in which, I just simply erased everything you and Beards were working on because it just was not up to snuff.
Yeah,
in
really,
my mind.
really probably should have been a red flag for one of
Yeah.
us. Just didn't think about it till now, and now we're stuck here.
So, along those lines, today is a special show. We haven't talked about it yet.
We have not.
We have not discussed
Oh, yeah.
how special today's show is.
I know.
What?
My mom texted it.
3-year anniversary.
3-year anniversary. 3 years ago, July 29th, 2019, the city and sports radio changed forever.
Forever.
They did not have a 10 to 2 show on 810 that they wanted to listen to. And at that point, it was like, where's Seren? Who is this guy? Unbelievable. But yeah, 3 years in running. Who would have thought? Not me.
Not me.
Not me. Look at us. Not me. I wouldn't have guessed. And a lot of people that heard the first week wouldn't have guessed.
I'm the second longest tenured on this show.
You are.
Outside of you, Jason.
That's right. In those 3 years.
Rest in peace, Shane and Corey.
In those 3 years, we've had 2 different producers, and now we're on our second, number 2 and producer.
That's a good
and
way of
just-
saying number. Yeah, I like being a number. I like being called a number 2. I think that's.
I thought he was the producer.
Well, it's like technical producer and then producer. Like
I don't know.
They're both producers, but it's like he's a producer / number 2 mic.
His beard's not the
But
board op.
also as a number 1 mic, could also be a number 1. He's a number 2 mic with the ability of being a number 1.
I'm like a stretch 2.
Sure.
You know, I think that's where I'm at.
His beard's not the board op. Is that an offensive term now? Do we not
It's
use that?
derogatory.
Yeah.
I prefer
one of those things we put to bed.
I prefer technical producer.
They're not homeless. They're experiencing homelessness.
Beards, what's your title?
What's my title?
What's your title?
What would you?
Specifically?
I don't know.
Single tasker.
What do you do?
What's
at,
it say in your email bio?
What do you do at 810? Oh, you work at 810? Oh, that's cool. What do you do?
Producer / engineer of the zone.
Engineer. I'm like, great engineer.
And then also senior programming coordinator.
Nice.
I made it up
Senior
just for me.
program. Good for you.
SPC.
And now all of your parents' friends, you can say, and they say, well, my son's an engineer.
Yeah.
So he went to school. He's busted his butt. Yeah, he's actually an engineer. So we're very proud of him. Very proud of him.
An engineer at a radio station might even be like that. That sounds pretty impressive, even if you don't want to hide the truth there.
Yeah. You also know a little bit about like popularity and longevity of those that have been on the air here at 810 for a long time. For example, playing fall ball, and we have a couple of new kids on our team from summer to fall. One of the kids' names
You've
is
already started your fall ball season?
practice.
Okay.
One of the kids' names is Soren. actually Soren, not Soren. And so I was talking with his mom the other day at practice, and I said, oh, it's crazy because I work with someone whose name's Soren, spelled the same, and people call him Soren, and he's gotten used to it. It used to bother him, but, it's actually pronounced Soren. And she was like, you work with Soren Petro? I said, yeah. She was like, well, that's the only person I know that pronounces it Soren, and not everybody pronounces it Soren. And she goes, what do you do? I do the 4 hours before him. So, but then she was like, look, I just know the name because of my son, and people ask about it all the time. Sense. She's like, I don't really listen to this. She's like, my husband would probably know, but I'm not. I said, hey, my wife listens to Sirius XM. So, I mean, and part of the salary helps, our family, and she didn't even listen. So it's all good.
Are you Stephen St. John? Oh, no?
No, nope, not at all.
Holy cow, Nate Buchanan.
Nate Buchanan, I cannot believe it.
Your play-by-play is the best.
But I love, she's like, he's the only person, and because it's Scandinavian, and she's like, well, that's our family ancestry, and she's like, we have like 6 kids in our family that are named Soren.
Soren.
Yeah. And she's like, and it's really pronounced, like she added the actual pronunciation. I'm like, I don't even know that. But she's like, yeah, the only one I've ever heard of that pronounces it Soren is him.
That makes sense.
I said, oh, well, yeah, he's different. I mean, he's somebody off on his own, because the only reason I knew it was Scandinavian and that it was typically pronounced Soren is because of the press conference they did over the summer with the Chiefs in the Zoom. And Brad G said, let's go to our Scandinavian friend, Soren. Oh. And I thought he was messing with Soren. Yeah. I thought he was joking. And then the guy started speaking with an accent.
Then you thought Soren's messing with us.
Yeah.
Speaking with an accent. Yeah, he's really good.
That was not a Syracuse accent. It was a not from this country accent. And so Soren is what they called him. Well, there you go.
The more you know.
There's my story. So all that to say, 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years of the Zone.
3-year anniversary of the Zone. We got there.
A couple days ago, I was at the gym. I'm going to pause for you guys to say, oh, that's nice. Good job.
Hey, Mick, congratulations. Mick, you look great today, by the way.
Trainer, I've known her for a little bit. They were doing a TikTok video, and I was instructing them. And she's like, oh, well, Mick works at TV. And the other girl there was like, oh, what do? You producer? I'm like, yes. You went right for producer?
Yeah.
You went right for behind the scenes?
Uh-huh.
Behind the camera?
You looked at me and thought, he's not hosting anything.
Well, rule that out.
Are you a producer or maybe in sports?
Like
Are you cameraman?
Yeah. It's the Family Guy bit. You've got too much talent for the big screen. You should be a producer. Gee, I don't know, a producer. I don't know. Yeah, I should a producer. You got an engineer, a producer / number 2.
Yep. I don't like number 2. I've been putting co-host on all my things.
You're a deuce?
Because it's just very fecal in nature. I feel like that really sort of leads me right to the where I'm a producer. Number 2 is not what I want on my business card.
It's more of in the industry that you would say would be a number 2 mic or a number 1 mic.
See, I think co-host implies that, where you can just be host, right? You can just I'm Jason Anderson,
you're an H2,
host of The Zone with Jason Anderson, and I can say, oh yeah, I'm the co-host of The Zone with Jason Anderson. It's implied that there's a big dog who's doing most of the barking, but I get to yip every once in a while. You know?
Say guest starring?
Guest starring is nice.
I guest star in The Zone.
Well, yeah, it's like a TV show and featuring Josh Brisco.
Could we go The Zone with Jason Anderson featuring Josh Brisco? FT dot, like it's a rap track. You got a feature on
featuring Lil Baby and Josh Brisco.
Exactly.
So this one slaps.
I like that. Make that the podcast description from now on, please, Beards. I'd like to be a featured artist.
The Zone but who are we featuring you with? The Zone with Jason Anderson featuring Jack Harlow and Josh Brisco.
I would welcome him onto the show if he wanted to join us for a little bit.
I'll just call him. Let me see.
Look, you guys, both
text him,
big Louisville guys.
Let me see if he wants to text back.
There would be.
He's from Louisville.
Oh, he sure is. Okay. There would be a world in which Jason has had Jack Harlow's phone numbers for like 10 years. Like I think there's a chance that you just like crossed paths in Louisville at one point.
No, but what the story that I do tell is that when I first got to Louisville, there was a goofy, curly fro-haired little white dude that was putting out these rap videos that people made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Not
as
anymore.
People made fun of. Go look up the video, Jack Harlow, Ice Cream Man. And back in the day, it's just him and his friends rapping, and they're riding down in like a van, right? Just riding down the street in a van. And you look at him, you're like, well, that is one goofy-looking dude. And people used to clown on him. And then he became Jack Harlow. Wow. And now it's like, oh, Jack Harlow's from Louisville, man. Oh, yeah, it's my backyard. Oh, he's rapping about Bardstown. And oh, I went to that park. Yeah, Jack Harlow. Like, you remember that video? Back? You remember people used to clown on him a little bit? So, good for him, though. Good for him, though. It was, it's awesome because you know how many kids that were in 7th or 8th grade that were doing that and started being made fun of that would have stopped? Mm-hmm. That would have just said, nope, not doing it anymore. Yep. I didn't want people to. Instead, now he's making 7 figures.
To be fair, probably should have.
That's a good point. No, it's a great point. That is a great point.
Most of the time when people tell you you can't do it, they're right. Right. Okay, when I had that teacher that told me I couldn't make the NFL. Well, okay, he was wrong on you, but he was right about the million other people he told that to.
Yeah, 3 years.
I feel like the teacher dishing out side dishes of reality there needs to get a little more credit. Yes, he got one wrong, but he got the rest of them right.
3 years in, I'm still dealing with that.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you know, some people should have taken the advice and just instead of just persevering, like, oh man, one day he's gonna understand what we're saying when we make fun of him.
Kansas City's Jack Harlow.
That's all I've been saying.
Your what's poppin' is just around the corner. You haven't found it yet, but eventually you're gonna have it.
Look, people know that this show is first class. Okay.
So I don't know how they remembered it, but Dia Wall is our main anchor.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
6 and 10. Taylor Hemness. Do you know Taylor? He is a morning anchor at our place. They used to be the main anchors in Tyler, Texas. And a couple years ago, they dug up a picture of those two, and they're different haircuts. They both glowed up, Dia and Taylor.
So you were saying maybe they should have got
glasses, I think.
Maybe work behind the camera?
And it was like 2012, I don't know, and like a little 14-year-old Patrick Mahomes is on set with them.
Wow.
Him and his buddies, a team maybe taking a tour of the station,
cool.
And at the studio, so they have a picture of them with Mahomes.
And they were actually making fun of Mahomes, saying he would never make it.
When he was in his Jack Harlow phase.
Listen to this guy's voice; he'll never make it.
Is that where your ass sit? Awesome. I would like to do that. Awesome. Do we have time to sit on the desk?
He wants to sit on the desk. Do we have time to sit on the desk? Yeah.
Desk. I want to sit on the desk.
All right, so now go. There's a wasp in studio. Go.
The desk was taking the place of wasp.
Yeah, we were advancing the scene.
Yeah,
it's like free.
Because I can't do
it's
any
improv.
I want to hear you throw in. Do we have time for?
Whoa! Watch out!
Is it a wasp?
Okay, so now it's freeze. Okay, so now it's the same scene, but it's happening in a zoo.
Okay.
And it's snowing.
Okay.
Action.
And there's a cheetah.
There he is. Cheetah's down there somewhere. Wasp.
No, the wasp was gone. The wasp,
what?
It's near the zoo. The wasp flew away at the zoo. And there's a cheetah.
They don't have wasps in captivity at zoos,
Freeze.
Jason. Have you ever been to a zoo?
Sir, can I... What's my motivation here?
Sorry.
Like what's the? I need to know what my character's backstory is because it doesn't make sense him sitting in this zoo. Is he part of Jungle Law? Because if so, badass. And I want to meet Primetime.
There's a cheetah down there somewhere. The honey badger is currently actually running the other direction. That seems like could be good, could be bad.
He's got his paws up in the air.
His paws are all over the place.
Okay, yeah.
And,
this is like Who's Line for radio.
Yes.
Yeah,
and so Patrick Mahomes in this case is 10 or 12 years old. Dan Sorensen's there. He's 47 because this was about 10 years ago. And scene.
Dan's down there. I'll just throw it towards him.
Scene. Okay, there it is.
Yeah, there you go.
And we've done all right. And great
wherever
work.
Dan Sorensen is, that's where I'm going to look to throw
good.
it. Yeah.
And that's been Scenes from a Hat with Jason Anderson.
And gone. That stupid scene. That was dumb. 3 years in, they're still wondering what the hell's going on there. Stupid. Football, right?
I think as soon as I acknowledge that I like your Denny Matthews impression, it's never gonna. It's just all. You're going to become Denny Matthews.
Oh, it's his best impression, and he's got a lot of good ones.
Only impression. Let's be honest. The other ones are like 2s.
This was like an 8. I mean, I think it's a good Denny Matthews.
You do Edo. I feel like a lot of people could do Edo. It's just kind of some growling. And
well, when I saw him at the Super Bowl, he was trying to make that happen.
Yeah,
he was trying to make that happen that night. I ain't never seen so many damn good-looking women in one place in all my life. I don't know about you. Thanks, Ed. You just made my
A lot of
year.
people are trying to do Edo.
You just made my year there, guy. Just made my year.
I like the new shoes, Mick. I think you tweeted about these already.
Herbie
These are
T.O.P. went
fresh.
off on him. He'd never.
What?
He had A, never heard of dudes, and B, had never heard of Shields. So,
Whoa,
I
that
just,
did upset.
I just
Interesting.
opened up a brand new metaverse to Herbie in his life. So I talked to him yesterday. He's like, I can do a good Herbie. I got to get there.
Ooh, I don't know if I can.
Oh, I
Herbie's,
can't.
but
yeah.
I've known Herbie for a long time. He's like, mine are coming in tomorrow.
Oh, really?
I'm like, what color? He's like, well, one pair. I'm like, whoa, you got multiple pairs? One's white, I think, and the other is, I can't remember the other color. He was serving in the military. I'm like, they got camo. He's like, I feel like if you're in the military, okay,
Enough
we
with
get the camo stuff.
enough with the
Okay,
camo.
yeah.
It's like Russell Wilson wearing his own jersey. You know, like that's
do
weird.
that.
Yeah. Well, I figured that the pushback was going to be, that he still has Army dude and beat reporter, football journalist, right? So I think there's always kind of a battle there for Herbie. I thought he might just stick with the running shoes, whatever, the general high performance shoes, because Herbie's about performance. The fact that he's immediately in on the dudes, I think that is a win for the sports journalist side of Herbie.
I always assume that Herbie, like after the press conferences are over, as he's walking to his car, he's shedding the outer layer of his wardrobe, and then he's actually got the army fatigues on and the camouflage, and and then he just gets right into his Jeep and then heads off to go and serve our country, and then heads back and puts it's like Superman.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Only his phone booth is the walk from the press conference to the car.
Well, that's not what happens, believe it or not.
Okay.
I've never seen Herbie change in front of me. I'm sorry to break this news to you.
I was actually wondering if he had.
I'm not gonna give away your secret identity, Herbie.
Yeah,
You're good. I'm not trying to out Clark Kent right now.
I haven't been to war, but I'm pretty sure that's not how war
It doesn't
works
seem
as
like
well.
how that works.
I didn't know.
But I also don't really know.
Didn't know. Brady Singer.
Seamless segue.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to throw. Actually, I was gonna say needs to throw.
Are you
a
wearing socks
no-hitter.
with the
No,
dudes?
you don't
You
wear
don't,
socks
right?
with the dudes.
I think
What
I'm gonna
do,
finally
you
follow
get
you
the
through
you
this
get the
on
ankle things though. The no-show socks.
Yeah.
And you wrap them around the sole of the dudes, and you keep them there. They won't smell.
You take out the insert
Take
of it,
out the
wrap them
insert,
around.
put
Fantastic.
the no-show around there. It'll help big time with the smell.
I've been wearing my sandals
Have I done
to work
that?
too
No,
much.
geez, but yeah.
Awesome.
I've worn these to work too much. People
Good for
keep
you.
saying, like, I don't want to see your toes. I don't want to see my toes, but I also don't want to put on socks if it's 95 degrees out.
Yeah, it
but I
makes
don't want my
sense.
shoes to stink.
Makes
This-
sense.
You thought Corey would take the show on tangents.
How does
You got
this
Josh
breathe?
now.
So anyway,
My mom says, "Hey Beards,
Brady
my mom,
Singer.
hey Beards, my mom says we need to see Mick's shoes. Can we get a shot of Mick's
Why?
shoes here?
Maybe.
You talk about Brady Singer, and then the viewers can
I
see
want
Mick's
Mick
shoes.
to talk about Brady Singer. I've talked about Brady
That's
Singer.
great. Mick can talk about Brady Singer. We can look at his shoes.
I want there to be a little bit of a change up to this conversation.
There it is. How many did he throw?
We're back.
It
That
wasn't-
was a better
it wasn't
segue,
whole
Jason.
lot
It wasn't
yesterday, right?
No, he only threw 6.
The strikeout pitch was the.
It was either the sinker or the slider
sinker,
last
yeah.
night. It was pretty darn good, man. It was really good last night. He is the 7th pitcher to ever do that, to go into Yankee Stadium, face the Yankees, have 7 innings pitched at least, 1 hit or
So
fewer.
one of those guys must have done it twice, right? Because I only saw 5 on the list.
Yeah, my list that I put
Tiant
out there.
or whatever?
No, I had to reply
Did
and
you
say I
add one
left
more?
off Bartolo Colon.
Well,
Bart Colon.
and those
I
are
left
all
off.
those are all guys, right? There
Yeah.
was no like
some slapping
one off like a Brady Singer, right?
Right. Yeah. One
And
of them.
hopefully, in 10 years, you're like, oh yeah,
Right.
No, he belongs in that list. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
But-
and so he was literally unhittable for 7 innings outside of 1 hitter. I mean, he gave up 1 hit. Other than that, he was completely in
I was
command.
going to say, if there was a no hitter, maybe it's what he needs to do, but they still would have lost, as it turns out.
Yeah, he could have thrown a no hitter into the 11th and still
Yeah,
would not have won.
Judge would have just come up with 2 outs instead of
Yeah, that's
instead
right.
of 1. I guess
That's
right there.
Yeah. But I think last night, I don't even care that they lost 1-0. I honestly do not care. It sucks that they're not scoring runs, right? It makes it more enjoyable when they would have scored runs, and it would have been better had Brady Singer got the win instead of being the only person out of that actually did not get a decision and a win. That would have been cool. But to me, as we're looking at this season, Mick, it's about next year and the year after that and the year after that. And the fact that he has done this now, 23 strikeouts and 3 walks in his last 2 starts against the Rays and the Yankees, and 1 earned run. in those 13 innings is on 23 Ks in 13 innings against the Rays and the Yankees.
It bothers
It's
me
different.
a little that they lost 1-0 because going into the year, 3-year anniversary, but 3 months ago, you wouldn't have said that sentence. This year's all about next year and moving.
I'm past the what can they do this year. Now it's the what do they do the rest of the way. Wins and losses to me more immaterial. I mean, I shouldn't say immaterial. It would be nice if this group, as they continue to get younger, if they trade Merrifield and things like that, then starts to win together. That would be great. But to me, it was about Brady Singer. If they had won 8-7 and Brady Singer gave up, 7 runs and got the win, that's not nearly as good as losing 1-0 and Brady Singer looking like that when you're talking about what the future of this Royals team can be.
Agree. That's a better game. But then there's also the part of that was probably their only shot to beat the Yankees in this series. They're going to lose 13-2 tonight, right? You can just see that coming.
Yeah.
And so, and there's the whole they haven't scored in 27 innings.
Roughly.
And there's the hitter and fielder equivalent of Brady Singer on the other side and getting more at bats. You'd like to see, let's come through there when you got Prado at third and other situations. And so that I didn't like to see that. I was encouraged. I'd wipe the slate clean after the All-Star break. They're 3-1. They win that first series. And thank goodness they scored, in the 9th against the Angels on Monday.
Yes.
Makes the math easier doing the scoreless streak. You have to go back to they scored in the 5th of that game. Now they scored in the 9th. So
it's 9 innings.
It's just 3 games. It's 27 innings. And it was, I thought it was going to extend beyond that because I thought we were going to extras and penalty kicks last night.
Yeah.
But,
did not happen.
No.
That was not in Sacramento. That was a tough night, too. That was a tough one. Mick Shaffer, KSHB 41 Sports Director, brought to you by Kona Big Wave. Take a little break and single task tonight with a Big Wave Golden Ale from Kona Brewing Company. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, get a What's on Tap, also cuts before the show is over. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Have you done it? What'd you do last night in Vegas?
I was in Kansas City last night.
Cool.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
How many hours of independent study does KSHB make you do, Mick?
This counts right here. This is 3 hours a week on the radio.
Minimum.
Now I'm not
at
doing
least.
Josh's night show anymore, so
Oh,
I'm down.
yeah.
I'm under my
Yes.
4.
Nice. Good for you.
Is there a podcast?
No, there's not. Can we hear from Jeff Darlington real quick? Just as that story advanced as of last night, that Kyler Murray had his press conference yesterday. He was very upset with the media for reacting the way that they did to a clause that was put in by his agent and the team that he must have 4 hours of independent study without video games and TV and the internets. He wasn't happy about that. Jeff Darlington weighs in on the Cardinals and the handling of that when they put the clause in, and now apparently that clause has officially been taken out of his contract.
It does draw too much attention. It did draw way too much attention to Kyler Murray's contract. And the second point is, as we just saw with them removing it, it probably wasn't the type of thing that was very enforceable anyway. So, I think that we've looked at every step of this, from the clause itself to Kyler's reaction to it yesterday, to the social media team for the Arizona Cardinals then tweeting out Kyler's reaction to a clause that was put in his contract by the organization, to then taking out the clause altogether. It's just been handled so poorly.
See, that was my first reaction of this whole thing. People had fun with Kyler Murray and the video games and stuff. My first reaction was, how dumb is this for the Cardinals to put this in there? Either you trust him or you don't. That's going to come to light. And there's now a scarlet letter on Kyler Murray, as in, like, any interception, anytime there's a bad play, it's going to be like, well, did you not read the defense? Are you not game planning? Did you not put enough time? Like, well, this quarterback, would another quarterback have read that differently if they put it? Were you video gaming when you could have? Were you gaming when you could have been game planning? It just didn't make sense for the Cardinals to do that, and now
so
it makes
it
even
was
less
just
sense
for him
because they take him out.
That was just for him, right? They don't do it. That's not a standard deal. Just in Arizona, that's what we do. We want some homework for everybody. It's not a standard thing written into all contracts.
Like the Cowboys and Randy Gregory, that contract fell apart because they put in there language that if he were to be suspended, he would lose all of his guaranteed money, right? It would no longer be guaranteed. And he said, no, that's not happening. And the Cowboys said, we literally have this in every contract except for Dak Prescott. And he goes, cool, and except for me too. I said, no. So we went to Denver because Denver didn't put it in. So the Cowboys made an exception for Dak, but it's standard
and he
in theirs.
Didn't sign it, but Kyler did sign it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
just didn't like the reaction, I guess, to it. Here's the deal with Kyler. I think when you're a professional athlete, and especially a quarterback in the face of an organization, you really have to be above it all, right? You hear everything, but you got to be like, nah, I don't really pay attention to that stuff. Like number 15 here. Feels like he lets a lot of that stuff get to him a little too much.
Kyler or 15?
Kyler.
I think
15 handles it better than anybody.
15 handles it publicly, but I think he keeps notes and keeps track of everything.
Which is how you do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
you hear it all, but when the mic's in front of you, you're like, it's whatever.
Yeah, I see what
pay
you're saying.
attention. Kyler, evidenced by that, and with, what was it, the letter he wrote, right, on the, what was it? It was on the letterhead, right, when he wanted to stay in Arizona or whatever, just got a little too emotional on social media for probably what you want out of your quarterback.
Well, he makes good decisions. We know that because his now yearly salary is more than the A's entire payroll, who drafted him number 9, and he chose football instead of baseball.
Good call.
The A's entire payroll is less than what he's making per year now. So he made a good decision to go to football instead of signing with the A's and going to spring training with them and choosing baseball. So, good decision maker. That was a pretty big one in his life.
No, that was good. But I mean, he did sign the contract and then just didn't like the.
Doesn't
and
make
so,
sense.
I mean,
to put
I
it in and
guess,
take it out.
is that the only thing they're talking about there? Is like, okay, you need Was that in there to say you need to study more on your own? You need to put more into film?
You know, we talked about this earlier.
Which, by the way, I'm okay with it. Like, if you're not doing it, and we're giving you all this money, and you're the quarterback, no, we have some expectations.
Why give it,
there.
if you don't? But if he's not meeting your expectations, why would you give all that money to that guy?
Then
Like
I can't do
once
that. I gotta
Jamarcus
move on.
Russell's blank DVDs come back and he's got a whole report that he watched them all, you know, there's no clause that would have you give Jamarcus Russell $200 million.
Right, and
That's
so
my question. The Cardinals here also. I just don't know.
Oh, absolutely. That's the main question I
don't
had
know what
was for the Cardinals, and it's another reason why NFL teams don't like players that have other interests. Remember, it was a bad thing that Chris Connolly was into, making movies and doing some things on his own and reading and all of this other. Like this guy reads off on his own. Like what is wrong with him? He doesn't just sit there and consume football all day. So it's kind of a bad thing. Kyler Murray has been made fun of because he does a lot of gaming in his spare time, and people have had some fun with that. And my point being, like, okay, I get it. So we're making fun of him for gaming, which is something a lot of people do now. What if we changed sometimes he'll play a game for like 3.5, 4 hours. Like, oh my God. Well, if we change that to, you know what? He's a big movie buff.
Or
Loves
he
Hollywood.
golfs.
Or golfs.
People love all of the quarterbacks going golfing. It's competition.
This guy spends 3.5, 4 hours on a golf course.
Yeah.
What is his problem?
Right.
No, he spends it in front of a TV playing video games.
Tell
it's
Josh
like, this guy's
Allen
lazy.
he can't watch film on a golf
This
course
guy's
and go, wait a
lazy.
second. Whoa, how much is he golfing?
Yeah. So I think there's an element of the younger, this generational thing. Like if he's a movie buff and he watched The Godfather, no, he'd be like, this guy spent 3.5 hours watching The Godfather.
An overrated film.
So let's get into what's on tap. It is presented by KC Beer Company, KCBIER.com. What's on tap this weekend? Well, you got the Royals coming up tonight, tomorrow, and on into Sunday. Still TBD for the Royals starter on Sunday with Bubic and Greinke on the mound the next 2 nights. We will see a Garrett Cole tonight, and then as I can't remember the color commentator for which baseball team said that Nestor the Molester, Nestor Cortez, will be on the mound tomorrow, who was a lot of fun watching
Cott?
him pitch. It might have been, yeah.
Explicitly
now a
not
Hall of Famer, right?
Explicitly
Yes.
not a molester.
That's
Just
exactly
again,
right.
I'm going to try to help keep Jason from having to do
Right.
what he had to do a month ago.
But Nestor then was asked about it,
rhymes.
and he had fun with it. And he was like, "Oh, I know what I'm not taking offense to it." And
seems great.
Hearing Nestor during the All-Star game makes sense that he would go that route.
Greinke v. Nestor on
Yes.
Saturday is a good pitching matchup.
Absolutely. So Sporting then in action Saturday, taking on Austin at 7:30 after the disappointing and heartbreaking late loss to Sacramento. Current in action on Sunday against the Orlando Pride, 6 o'clock. And then the Monarchs heading to Sioux Falls this weekend, tonight, tomorrow, and on into Sunday. That is What's on Tap, presented by KC Beer Company. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Cuts next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Enjoy the rest of the day off. Thank you,
I
sir.
won't because I'm going home to my family.
What a great dad.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's get some cuts here on this Friday edition. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us. We head on into the weekend with the cuts. Beards, what do we got, man?
Second of all, I have a question I need to ask you. We've been asking here all week, and it's about the eventual end of Ben Roethlisberger's career. It's not morbid or anything, but I need your expert opinion. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure, shoot.
How will Ben Roethlisberger's career end? Will he be toppled like a Confederate statue in the backfield? Will he be hit and break into several pieces like a large Lego man? Or will he eventually be hit and vaporized like half of the universe in Avengers Infinity War?
I guess of those three options, I would say the Confederate statue is toppled over.
I think that's the winner. That was as discussed earlier this week.
Okay.
My first question to the first guest Beards ever booked for me, a Steelers writer who was not ready for that Ben Roethlisberger question.
No, and how could you be? How could you
I
be?
have not heard that audio in years.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. You're going on a total legit show.
Wait, how long ago was that?
4 or 5 years
That was
ago?
like 2018, I want to say.
I was going to say, did
Yeah.
you tell Josh he already retired?
How's he going to? You mean Trubisky? No, Roethlisberger.
Should have retired when I was
That's
asking
right.
that question.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about running for office at any point, Bob?
Oh, no.
His reaction. Oh, no. No. All right, what else?
You know what was really cool is I had some really good Kansas fans made sure to remind me that I was number one when I was leading the team. That was really good.
That wasn't Nate,
For the
was
record,
it?
I was
Nate?
not one of those
Okay,
guys. That
all
was
right.
not me.
Better
No.
watch yourself.
Eli Drakewitz.
To grab the Speedos from the front side.
Whoa.
Hey.
Bart Scott, why are you doing that?
Time to go get a beaver. You ever get sprayed by a beaver?
No.
Okay. What? Can you teach him how to trap a beaver, Marco?
No chance.
No chance.
Look, you locked in on the butt, and that's what you're good for, right? You're good at that, and
typically,
I don't know what else to tell you.
Did you hear the blues there when you struck out and they played the game there?
It's a bullshit question.
It wasn't a stupid question. It's a legit question.
It's a bullshit question. It's impossible to answer.
It's not a stupid question. If it's a stupid question, you should be equipped to answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
And you should be able to handle a stupid question.
Oddly enough,
Marissa
Marissa
Tomei, baby.
Tomei was being asked instead of Castellanos.
And what did I just bring up out of nowhere in the break?
Which then reminded me that I
Yes.
needed to put that one in the
My
cuts this
cousin
week. Yes, my cousin Castellanos.
I got a nice beaver rug in the house down at the lake.
Tell me.
So but you did that for yourself, or who?
Well,
did you-
that I did. I skinned it out.
Jeez, Potiker. My goodness, man. It's a family show in the morning. You got kids in the car driving to school.
Two guys want to go at it, playing cornhole. I have a level of entertainment.
Attaboy, Surin.
Surin, yes. Andrew, you want to throw one more dart? One more dart? One more thart? I don't know why that made me laugh. One more thart.
Yeah, for sure. Doing really well. Digging in the playbook, communicating a lot, trying to be on the same page in every play. And
That was actually just Joe Tooney. His motherboard was affected by the rain, so his regular robotic answers were
yeah, for sure. Doing really well. Digging in the playbook, communicating a lot, trying to be on the same page in every play. And
just hit the back of them, to turn them off and turn them back on.
He really is. He really is a robot.
It's amazing.
It was raining that day. You said it got into circuitry. I get it.
I joked before the show. I was like, well, we're going to hear from Joe Tooney about Orlando Brown, and maybe he plays left tackle, and he'll say, well, I just want to do whatever the coaches need me to do, whatever position out there, just trying to win football games and get better, so whatever they ask me to do. Then he was asked about it, and he said,
the horn just blew. Does that mean I'm done?
The horn
I didn't mean to
blew.
interrupt you there. I accidentally clicked.
No, that was perfect.
You should start using that to cut Jason off when running out of time.
The horn has to now be. You got to hotkey that horn, and then here's Spags. The horn just blew.
I'll save it. Don't worry. I'll
It's
save
got to
it.
be hotkeyed.
Boy, that's a long one.
If you find that you suck, be honest with yourself and set the limits.
The lesson I learned at a young age: leave my
get the money out of the ATM, go back home, leave the debit card there, and then go to the casino.
That sounds like a loser to me. That sounds like a guy who does not win at the casino.
A guy who knows what the outcome is going to be beforehand.
Oh, Sam McDowell has some
zingers.
Some zingers that knock you on your butt, not expecting them.
Do you eat the bun?
Yeah, I like carbs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, carbs are good for you.
Really?
Burns them
Yeah.
off. You probably burn them off like crazy.
Yeah, I got a fast metabolism.
Oh, you little bastard.
My metabolism backpedals faster than Deion Sanders.
Fast metabolism.
Don't you always love? We know when Adam wants to say something.
I
'cause
hear the-
We hear him. We hear him huffing and puffing on the mic.
I just hear that.
That's always great.
That's my Seren walking impression.
Oh, wow.
We'll play the little game where you watch a video, you have to do a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or just a sideways.
Gary, you do the thumbs up game?
Wait a minute. That's not a thumb.
Oh, God.
I'm only 60.
Oh, man, you've lived a hard life if you're only 60.
Bonnie, that was mean to Lezak. It was his birthday that day. They went to go see the Elvis Presley movie together, and they did the thumbs up and thumbs down game, apparently.
Bob Kendrick is also 60. I talked to him the day you talked to him out at the Monarchs, and he had just turned 60. Him and Lezak.
Awesome.
Are you thinking about running for office at any point, Bob?
Oh, no.
Just love that, man.
Smart man.
Two guys want to go at it playing cornhole. I have a level of entertainment.
Andrew, you want to throw one more dart? One more dart? One more thart?
Hey, can we hear the Petro laugh again?
Which one?
He did the like Billy Madison bad guy laugh. What's the guy's name? Bradley. Bradford.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's
I don't know what clip.
Which
I don't remember what clip that was.
It might be this one.
You find that you suck, be honest
This
with
one.
yourself and set the limits. The lesson I learned at a young age, just get the money out of the ATM, go back home, leave the debit card there, and then go to the casino.
That sounds like a loser to me. That sounds like a guy who does not win at the casino.
A guy who knows what the outcome is going to
It's not
be.
that one.
Oh, it's not that one?
It's not that one.
Let's play another Soren one.
Can we also get the can we get the horn, and then instead of it being Spag saying "Oh no," it's Bob Kendrick responding to my question about if he wants to run for office?
That one I'll need to edit.
No, I know. I just figured you'd work on the fly.
Do you eat the bun?
This one.
Yeah, I like carbs.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, carbs are good for you.
Really?
Burns them off. You probably burn them off like crazy.
Yeah, I got a fast metabolism.
Oh, you little bastard.
So do I.
Here it is.
My metabolism backpedals faster than Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
That's
that villainous laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was totally worth the payoff. We
Thanks,
got
yeah.
it was all of that leading up to that. And I'm glad we did that. Absolutely.
Did you guys time the show right?
No, I just like playing the clips. I mean, the show's over for me. It's Beard's work now.
Yeah.
Beards has 3 more minutes of work. I don't.
Oh, no.
See, well done. That's the work. Good work. Putting that work in, Beards. There you go. That's why you're an engineer.
Okay, now Beards, I want to ask Steve Spagnuolo if he'd like to run for office. Go ahead. You don't have that already?
Let me get that one
Sorry,
right.
you
Let me get that one right.
You didn't instantly make that?
I didn't mind you know.
Actually, you know what? I just want to hear Marissa Tomei as Nick Castellanos. That's what I want to hear.
I want to hear if Marissa Tomei and Nick Castellanos have a high metabolism or not.
Did you hear the blues there when we struck out in the playing the game there?
It's a bullshit question.
It wasn't a stupid question. It's a legit question.
It's a bullshit question. It's impossible to answer.
It's not a stupid question. If it's a stupid question, you should be equipped to answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
Then you should be able to handle a stupid question.
Yeah, for sure. Doing really well. Digging the playbook, communicating a lot, trying to be on the same page in every play, and
He's incredible. It's like performance art. And I mean this is not mean spirited. This is a compliment. He will not tell you anything.
See, some people would look at it and go, I don't want to hear from Joe Tooney. Opposite for me. I want to hear Joe Tooney talk because I want to hear all the different ways he can move words around to answer a question but have it sound exactly the same.
If he's a robot, he can absolutely play left tackle
Exactly,
at any
right?
time.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Nothing gets by him.
I'm not worried.
Questions, pass rushers, nothing.
Right. Except the rain, apparently it does cause a glitch.
That's
so
fair.
don't put him in the rain.
He needs to plant a poncho over his entire uniform. Oh, show's over. All right. See you Monday.
Oh.
So there's an end to that music loop,
There is,
apparently.
Apparently that end
It's
is like
9 minutes and 47 seconds long.
That's
There
it.
you go.
That's it.
There you
We
know.
did hit this segment pretty early.
No, that's fine. It's about time. We should do this more often. We should have a whole last hour of just cuts from the week.
Is this a new track of closing music we had?
It is. Yeah.
Am I supposed to like it?
Yes, you are. Of
Okay.
course you are. supposed to like it. Yeah, I mean, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's great on you
You're
guys'
supposed to
show.
like it.
Yeah, no, it works great on your show.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't. I wouldn't expect it for the Sunday sound off intro.
Is this like Seether?
No, it's actually a guy I know that made the song for me.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I feel like crap.
It's originally produced, but that's okay.
You ever heard the intro?
So
Fresh
you know
intro,
the
too.
lead singer of Seether?
That's right.
Yeah. That and Puddle of Mud.
Is this the System of a Down?
It is.
No, it's Nirvana.
Jack Harlow, early stuff. You wouldn't know it. Underground.
Ice Cream Man.
Before he blew up.
He's in a van
Jason
or
knew
whatever.
about
I
it.
don't know. No. Not at all. The horn blew.
The horn blew.
The bell rang.
That's how you should end the show.
The horn just blew.
For NFL action,